Order 66 did not end the way you remember it. You remember it as a slaughter, clean, in its way, and total. A single word, spoken across 1,000 comm links, and everywhere in the galaxy. In the same terrible instant, the men who had fought beside the Jedi for 3 years turned their weapons on them and fired. You remember it as an ending, the last night of the Jedi Order, 10,000 years of light snuffed out between one heartbeat and the next. But there is a moment inside that ending that the histories never recorded, because no one survived to record it. A moment when the Force itself, the living Force, the cosmic Force, the deep and nameless thing beneath both, convulsed under the weight of so many deaths happening at once. 10,000 Jedi, Masters and Knights and Padawans and Younglings, dying in the same breath, their connection to the Force torn loose altogether in a single catastrophic wound. The galaxy had never felt anything like it. The Force had never felt anything like it, and something, in that moment of unbearable severance, broke. Not the Jedi, something in the fabric of things. Picture it across the galaxy at once. On Coruscant, in the Great Temple, Jedi are dying on the steps, and in the archives, and in the creche. On 100 battlefields, generals who trusted their troops are cut down mid-command. Yoda feels the deaths ripple through him and staggers on Kashyyyk. Obi-Wan clings to the hull of a mount on Utapau as blaster fire rains down. Mace Windu is already gone, or nearly, fallen from a window into the Coruscant depths. Ahsoka, no longer of the Order, but bound to it still, feels her clones turn. And at the center of it all, in the Jedi Temple, the newly christened Darth Vader walks through the halls with a column of clones behind him and a lightsaber in his hand, doing the thing that will damn him past all redemption. And in that single instant, when the Force screams loudest, when the severance is total, the light takes them, not to save them from death. It is stranger and colder than that. It reaches into the moment of maximum agony and it pulls, and every Jedi still drawing breath in that instant, and some who were not, feel the galaxy turn inside out around them. The blaster bolts freeze in the air, the lava stills on Mustafar, the scream of the Force resolves, for one impossible second, into something almost like a voice, a vast, patient, unknowable attention turning toward them all at once, and then it is gone. And so are they. The Jedi Order, what remains of it, which in this moment is still nearly the whole of it, 10,000 strong, caught in the very act of dying, vanishes from the galaxy that killed it. When they open their eyes, they are somewhere else, and when they understand where, and more importantly when, the surviving Masters will come to wish, with everything left in them, that the clones had simply been allowed to finish the job. Because the Force did not send the Jedi Order forward, to safety. It did not send them sideways, into some gentler branch of what might have been. It sent them back, down, into the deep past of the galaxy, into an age that exists in their records only as fragment and legend and warning. An age the Jedi of the Republic spoke of the way children speak of monsters, in hushed voices, grateful it was over. The old Republic, the true old one, not the tired, corrupt, dying Republic of Palpatine's Senate. That republic was young by comparison, soft, civilized. This is the galaxy of the ancient wars, the galaxy when the Sith were not a secret order of two, hiding in the shadows and working through proxies. The galaxy when the Sith were an empire, thousands of them, tens of thousands, a whole civilization built around the dark side of the Force, with fleets and armies and worlds, and 1,000 years of hatred refined into a weapon. The Jedi of the Republic destroyed one Sith Lord, and it cost them everything. Order 66, the fall. 10 millennia of light ended by 2 men in robes. They are about to learn what it means to face an entire galaxy of them. What if the entire Jedi Order was sent back to the old Republic? Let's explore the full depths of it in this video. And I mean the full depths, because this is a long one, a proper journey, the kind you settle in for. So get comfortable, get something to drink, and if you love these deep dives into the Star Wars that might have been, consider subscribing so you never miss one. Now, let's go back, all the way back. The first thing they notice is the sky. It is wrong. That is how it registers. Before anyone can name why, simply wrong, in a way that raises the hair on the back of 10,000 necks at once. The stars are in the wrong places, not a little wrong, the way stars drift over a human lifetime, but wildly, fundamentally wrong. Whole constellations rearranged, the galaxy itself sitting at an angle it has not sat at for thousands of years. Any Jedi who knows astronavigation, and many do, feels the bottom drop out of their stomach before their conscious mind has finished the calculation. The survivors of Order 66 find themselves scattered across a single world, a green and temperate planet none of them recognizes. Its air breathable, its gravity kind, its landscape empty of any sign of civilization. They are alive, that is the first shock, and for a moment it is enough. They are alive when they were dying and the clones are gone, and the blaster fire is gone, and the terrible severance of the Force has healed back into the familiar warmth they have known their whole lives. For a few breaths, some of them dare to hope that they have simply been saved. Then they begin to find each other, and the hope curdles into something else, because they are all here. That is the horror that dawns slowly as the scattered groups link up across the planet over the first hours, as the head count climbs and refuses to stop climbing. Yoda is here, Obi-Wan is here, pulled from the hull of his mount on Utapau. Masters thought dead on distant battlefields are here, wounded, bloody, but breathing. The younglings from the Temple Creche are here, small, terrified, weeping, but alive, when the last thing any of them remembers is a blue blade coming toward them in the dark. The archivists are here, the temple guards, faceless behind their masks. The Council, or what was left of it, 10,000 Jedi, give or take, the near-complete order, standing together on the grass of an unknown world under an impossible sky. They were dying, all of them, in the same instant, and in the same instant all of them were taken. Yoda understands first. Of course he does. He is 900 years old, and he has felt the Force do strange things before, though never anything like this, and as he leans on his Geimer stick in the strange grass and reaches out with his ancient senses, he feels the truth of where they are settle into him like cold water into old bones. He closes his eyes, his ears sink, and when a young knight, half hysterical with relief and terror, asks him where they are, where the Force has taken them, whether they are safe, Yoda does not answer the question that was asked. He answers the one that matters. Not where, he says quietly, when. The days that follow are the strangest the Order has ever known, because they are days of grief and relief tangled together so tightly that no one can pull them apart. There is grief, enormous and fresh. Every one of these 10,000 Jedi was, moments ago, living through the worst hour in the history of their order. They watched their friends die. They felt the Force convulse with mass death. Many of them are wounded, blaster burns, saber cuts, the injuries of a massacre still raw on their bodies. And they carry a wound deeper than any of those, the wound of betrayal, because the men who turned on them were not strangers, they were brothers. 3 years of war had made the clones into family, and the family had, in a single word, become executioners. That does not heal because the sky changed. If anything, in the strange quiet of this unknown world, with no more bolts flying and no more orders to give, the grief has room at last to be felt in full. And yet, there is relief, and the relief is real, and the shame of feeling it sits on them heavily. They are alive. The younglings are alive. Whatever happened, however impossible, the slaughter has stopped, and they are together, and they are breathing. For the first time in 3 years, there is no war to fight in this exact moment. No clones, no separatists, no chancellor, just green grass and clean air, and the whole surviving order in one place. It cannot last, and the masters know it cannot last, and so while the younger Jedi tend the wounded and comfort the younglings, the Council, the survivors of the Council, gathered again for the first time since everything ended, sits down on the grass of an alien world to face the truth of their situation. Yoda lays it out, because Yoda has already worked it through, and because someone must. They are in the past. He is certain of it now, certain in the way that only 900 years of communion with the Force can make a being certain. The wrongness of the stars, the strangeness of the Force currents of this world, the deep and ancient feel of the galaxy around them, it all points to one conclusion, and it is a conclusion that would be unbelievable if they had not all just been pulled out of their own deaths by a power beyond naming. Time is not the wall the Jedi always believed it to be. The Force has moved them through it, and it has moved them far. How far, they do not yet know. But Yoda has a fear, and he shares it with the Council in a low voice, and the fear silences them one by one as they grasp it. The Force does nothing without reason. It did not pull the entire Order out of Order 66 and cast it into the deep past on a whim. There is purpose here, vast and unreadable, and the Jedi have spent their whole lives learning to trust that purpose even when they cannot see it. But purpose cuts both ways. If the Force went to this unprecedented length, tearing 10,000 souls loose from time itself, then whatever it sent them to face must be commensurate, must be worth it, must be a threat so great that the near-total sacrifice of the Order's own timeline was, in the cold cosmic arithmetic of the Force, a price worth paying, and there is only one age in the history of the galaxy that the Force might consider worth such a price. Obi-Wan says it first, because Obi-Wan has always been the one willing to say the thing everyone else is thinking. He has spent time in the archives. He knows the old records, the fragmentary histories, the warnings encoded in 10,000 years of Jedi memory, and as he looks around at the ancient sky and feels the ancient Force, a terrible suspicion takes shape in him. If we've gone back far enough, he says slowly, then we are not the only Order in this galaxy. No one answers. No one needs to, because every Jedi child learns the story, even if they learn it as legend. There was an age, the Deep Age, the Founding Age, the age the Republic was built to end, when the Sith were not two, when the dark side did not hide, when there was not one Sith Master and one Sith Apprentice working through shadows and proxies and patient thousand-year schemes, but an empire of the dark side, a whole civilization of Sith Lords, thousands upon thousands of them, with their own worlds and their own fleets and their own academies, where the strong murdered the weak as a matter of doctrine. An age when the galaxy was a battlefield between the light and the dark, on a scale the Republic Jedi could barely imagine, because they had never had to. They fought one Sith at a time, in the shadows. Their ancestors fought the Sith by the Legion, in the open, world against world. The Jedi Order that was just destroyed spent its entire existence hunting a threat of two, and it lost. Palpatine and his apprentice, working alone, from the shadows, brought down 10,000 years of Jedi civilization. If the Force has truly sent them back to the age of the Sith Empire, then these 10,000 traumatized, grieving survivors, an Order that was defeated by two Sith, are about to stand against thousands. The council sits in silence on the grass, and the enormity of it settles over them, and a young knight, listening from the edge of the gathering, finally voices the question that no one on the council has dared to ask aloud. Then why would the Force send us here? If we couldn't beat two, why send us to fight thousands? That's not a rescue. That's a... She stops herself, but the word hangs in the air unspoken, and Yoda's ears sink lower, because it is the same word he has been circling since he first understood where they were, and he does not have an answer for it. Sacrifice. Why would the Force save the Order from one death, only to deliver it to a greater one? Unless the saving was never the point, unless the Jedi were not brought here to be spared, but to be spent, aimed, like a weapon, at something the Force needed destroyed, in an age where they might do enough damage on their way to dying a second time to matter. That night, the first night, under the wheeling wrong stars, the Order does not sleep well. The younglings finally rest, exhausted by terror and grief, but the Masters lie awake, reaching out into the ancient Force, and what they feel out there in the dark of this young galaxy does nothing to comfort them, because the Force here is not the Force they know. The Force of their own time was balanced, or seemed balanced, the dark side a hidden stain on a mostly bright galaxy. Here, the dark is not hidden. Here, the dark is everywhere. A vast, cold, patient pressure at the edge of perception, coming from 1,000 points across the galaxy at once, like 10,000 eyes slowly opening in a dark room and turning one by one toward the small warm light that has just appeared where no light should be. The Sith have not found them yet, but the dark side is aware, in the way that the dark side is always aware that something has changed, that something bright and strange has entered the galaxy, and out there, across the young and brutal galaxy of the ancient age, the first of the Sith Lords begin, idly at first, and then with growing interest, to wonder what it is. Before the Scouts ever launched, before the first Sith was ever faced, the Order had to survive the simplest and most overlooked ordeal of all. It had to learn to live in the deep past, and the story of that first long year, quiet and unglamorous as it is, shaped everything that came after, because it was in that year that 10,000 traumatized survivors of a massacre either came apart or came together, and it was very much not certain in the beginning which it would be. Consider what they were in those first weeks. Not an army, a wound, 10,000 souls who had just lived through the worst hour in their Order's history, torn from the moment of their own deaths and cast into an impossible age. Many were physically injured. The burns and cuts and traumas of Order 66 did not heal because the sky changed, and the Order had healers, but no facilities, medicine but no infrastructure, thousands of wounded and nothing but a green world and their own hands to tend them with. The first task, before strategy or philosophy or war, was simply to keep the injured alive, and not all of them could be kept alive, and the Order's first deaths in the deep past were not to Sith blades, but to wounds taken in a massacre 10,000 years in the future, souls who survived Order 66 only to die of it in the ancient past, quietly, of injuries that in their own age would have been easily healed, and beneath the physical wounds were the deeper ones. Every soul in the Order was carrying trauma that had no time to be processed, because the moment of the massacre and the moment of the arrival were, for them, almost the same moment. One instant they were dying, betrayed, watching their friends cut down. The next they stood on alien grass under a wrong sky. There had been no time to grieve, no time to understand, no time to do anything but survive the transition. And now, in the strange quiet of the green world, with no more bolts flying and no more orders to give, all of that unprocessed horror came due at once. Jedi who had held themselves together through the massacre broke down in the aftermath. Some could not stop reliving the betrayal. Some were consumed by grief for the specific friends they had watched die. Some were simply numb, hollowed out, unable to feel anything at all. An order of 10,000 traumatized souls is a fragile thing, and in those first weeks it teetered on the edge of dissolution, of becoming not an order at all, but a scattered mass of broken individuals, each locked in their own private horror. What held them together, in the end, was the thing the Jedi had always been best at, and had, in the comfortable centuries of the future, half forgotten how to do. They held one another. In the crisis of the deep past, stripped of everything, the Order rediscovered fellowship. The Masters tended not only the physical wounds, but the spiritual ones, sitting with the broken, holding the grieving, doing the slow, patient work of helping 10,000 souls carry what could not be carried alone. Yoda moved among them, ancient and steady, a fixed point of calm in the collective storm. Obi-Wan and the other leaders organized not only the practical work of survival, but the deeper work of keeping hope alive. And slowly, over the first long weeks, the Order began to knit itself back together, not into what it had been, but into something that had passed through the fire and come out bonded by it. The practical work of survival helped in its way, because work is a mercy to a grieving mind. The Order had to feed itself, and so it learned the green world, which plants nourished, which waters ran clean, how to hunt the game and gather the harvest. It had to shelter itself, and so it built 10,000 pairs of hands, raising the first rough settlements of the Order in exile. It had to organize itself, to establish who did what, to become again a functioning community rather than a shipwrecked crowd. And in all that labor, there was healing, because a soul with work to do and people to do it beside is a soul that has reasons to climb up out of its own darkness. The younglings helped most of all, strangely, because the children needed care, and caring for children pulls even the most broken adult outward, gives them someone to be strong for, someone to protect, a future to tend. The Order that might have dissolved into 10,000 private griefs instead cohered around the work of survival and the care of its young, and became, in the surviving, more of a family than it had been in 1,000 years. It was in this first year, too, that the Order began to reckon honestly with Anakin, because in the enforced closeness of survival, the thing could not be avoided. In the chaos of the arrival, the question of the traitor in their midst had been submerged beneath sheer survival. But as the weeks became months, as the Order settled and the immediate crisis passed, the presence of Anakin Skywalker among them became a thing that had to be faced. There were those who could not bear it, who had seen the temple, who knew what he was, and who could not live in a community that harbored him. There were confrontations. There was, more than once, the real danger of violence, of the Order fracturing over the question of whether the Fallen One could be permitted to remain. And it was Yoda and Obi-Wan and slowly Anakin himself who navigated the Order through it, not by demanding forgiveness, which could not be demanded, but by allowing the question to be lived with, unresolved, held in the same fellowship that held everything else. Anakin did not ask to be forgiven. He asked only to be allowed to help, to serve, to spend himself for the Order he had wronged. And over the first long year, watching him do exactly that, watching him tend the wounded and guard the young and give himself to the community without asking anything back, even some of those who could not forgive him began grudgingly to accept his presence, not as absolution, as a truce, as the beginning of the long, slow work that would, over the years of the war, become something like redemption. By the end of that first year, the Order was ready to face the galaxy, not because the wounds had healed, for many of them never fully would, but because the Order had become, in the surviving, the kind of of community that could carry its wounds together rather than being destroyed by them. It had come to the deep past a broken remnant. It had become, through the patient work of survival and fellowship and the slow acceptance of even its most fallen member, an order again, and a truer one, in some ways, than the one that had been destroyed. The first year cost it much and taught it more, and everything the order would become in the long war to come was rooted in the hard, quiet lessons of that first year on the green world, learning how to live and grieve and hold together in an age 10,000 years from home. They cannot stay on the green world forever. That much is clear within days. There is water, and there is game, and the air is kind, but 10,000 people cannot live on grass. And more urgently, the Order is blind. They do not know what year it is. They do not know where in the galaxy they are. They do not know who rules, or where the Sith are, or whether there is a republic in this age at all, or anything else that a people fighting for survival needs to know. They are refugees from the future, camped on an unknown world, and knowledge is the first thing they must have. So the Council makes its first hard decision of the new age. They will send out scouts, small teams, the most capable and level-headed among them, to make contact with the galaxy and learn the shape of it, quietly, carefully, revealing nothing of who they are or where they came from. Obi-Wan volunteers, of course. So do others, seasoned knights and masters, who survived the war by being clever as well as strong. They take one of the few small craft that came back with them, for the Force, in its strange mercy or its strange calculation, brought back not just the Jedi, but some of what they were touching in that final instant, ships and sabers and whatever was close to their bodies when the light took them, and they slip off the green world and out into the dark to find out exactly how much trouble the Order is in. The answer, it turns out, is more than even Yoda feared. The first inhabited world the scouts reach tells them everything and nothing. It is a border world, rough and poor, the kind of place that exists in every age at the edge of civilization, and the moment the Jedi walk its streets in their travel cloaks, they understand that they have come to a galaxy at war. Not the clean, distant, hollow-screen War of the Republic, fought by clones on faraway worlds, while the core sipped its wine. This is a galaxy where war is the weather, where every settlement is fortified, where the people flinch at the sky, where the word Sith is not a secret and not a legend, but a daily terror, spoken the way people in a plague time speak the name of the plague, and the Jedi learn, piecing it together from frightened locals and cantina rumor and the careful questions of experienced spies, roughly when they are far enough back that the Republic is young and small and clinging to the core, a fragile alliance of worlds that has not yet become the galaxy-spanning institution it will be. Far enough back that the Jedi Order of this age is itself young, a few hundred knights, maybe, scattered and struggling, nothing like the 10,000-strong civilization camped on the green world, and far enough back that the Sith Empire is not a fallen thing, or a legend, or a memory. It is ascendant, it is winning, it sprawls across a huge swath of the galaxy, world after world, under the heel of the dark side, and it is pressing inward, slowly and inexorably, toward the young Republic's heart. The scouts also learn something that chills them more than any of the strategic facts. They learn how the Sith of this age are spoken of, and it is not the way the Republic Jedi thought of Sith at all. To the Republic, a Sith was a rare and terrible thing, a lone predator in the dark, a Dooku, or a Maul, or a hidden Emperor. Here, a Sith is a lord, a ruler, a fixture. There are Sith who govern whole sectors, Sith who command fleets, Sith who sit in academies teaching the young to murder each other into strength. The dark side is not an underground here. It is the establishment, the aristocracy, the state. And the people the scouts speak with do not dream of a galaxy without Sith any more than a person born in winter dreams of a world without cold. The Sith simply are. They have always been, and, as far as anyone on this frightened border world believes, they always will be. It is on the way back to their ship that the scouts have their first true encounter, and it changes everything. They feel it before they see it, a cold spot in the Force, a wrongness, a pressure. Obi-Wan has felt the signature of a Sith before. He felt Maul on Naboo, felt Dooku on Geonosis, felt the void where Palpatine's true self hid behind the Chancellor's mask. He knows what a Sith feels like, and what he feels now, approaching through the crowd of the border town, is that And also not that, it is a Sith, but it is a Sith with none of the caution, none of the hiding, none of the careful concealment that every Sith of his own age wore like a second skin. This one is not hiding at all. It walks through the market in the open, in armor and dark robes, and the crowd parts before it and lowers its eyes, and the thing radiates power and contempt with the casual ease of a predator that has never once in its life had to fear anything, because it hasn't. That is what the Jedi are only beginning to understand. In their age, a Sith hid because a Sith was hunted, because 10,000 Jedi and a galactic republic stood arrayed against the dark, and secrecy was survival. Here, there is nothing to hide from. Here, the Sith are the apex. This creature in the market has never been hunted in its life. It has only ever been the hunter, and it feels them. Of course it feels them. 4 Jedi, radiating the light side, standing in a market on a border world, in an age when the light has been all but stamped out. To this Sith, the scouts blaze like signal fires in a dark room. Its head turns. Its cold attention swings toward them across the crowd. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, who has faced Sith and lived, feels his mouth go dry, because in the eyes of this thing, there is not the calculating menace of a Dooku or the theatrical fury of a Maul, but something worse, something he has no experience of: boredom. Mild, contemptuous curiosity, the look of a thing so powerful, so unopposed, so utterly certain of its supremacy that 4 Jedi are not a threat to be assessed, but a novelty to be idly investigated before being destroyed. The fight, when it comes, is brief, and it is a horror. The scouts are not weaklings. They are veterans of the Clone Wars, survivors of Order 66, some of the most capable Jedi of an Order 10,000 strong. In their own age, any one of them could face a Darksider and expect to prevail, and against this single ancient Sith, 4 of them together are barely enough to survive. The thing fights with a savagery and a mastery that none of them have ever encountered, a style honed not by a hidden apprenticeship of 2, but by a lifetime in an empire where every rival is a Sith and every duel is to the death. It is faster than it should be, stronger than it should be. Its command of the dark side is casual and total, and it wields powers the Republic Jedi have only read about in the oldest and most forbidden texts. They do not defeat it, they escape it, bloodied, 2 of them badly wounded, fleeing to their ship, and breaking atmosphere with the thing's contemptuous laughter still ringing in the force behind them. And as they limp back toward the green world, the surviving scouts understand the thing that will define the whole struggle to come, the thing Yoda feared and the border world confirmed, and this single Sith has now written into their flesh, in blood. They fought one Sith, a single lord of this age, and not even, they suspect, a particularly important one. A governor, a mid-ranking noble of the dark, the kind of Sith this empire produces by the thousand, and it took 4 Clone Wars veterans everything they had simply to get away alive. There are thousands of these, tens of thousands, a whole civilization of them. The order that was destroyed by 2 Sith has been sent to a galaxy ruled by an empire of them, and the question the young knight asked on the first night, why would the Force send us here if not to spend us, no longer feels like paranoia. It feels like prophecy. To understand the full horror of what the Order has fallen into, we must leave the Jedi for a while and look at the thing they face from the inside. Because the Sith Empire of this age is not merely an army or a government, and understanding what it truly is explains everything about the war to come. Imagine a civilization built entirely on the principle that the strong have the right to consume the weak, not as a vice, not as a corruption of some better ideal, but as the founding truth, the organizing law, the thing every child of the Empire learns before it can walk. In the galaxy the Jedi came from, such a philosophy was the secret creed of a hidden few. Here, it is the open constitution of a civilization spanning half the stars. The Sith Empire does not hide its cruelty because it does not experience its cruelty as cruelty. To the Sith of this age, the murder of the weak by the strong is simply the Force expressing itself through the natural order, and to object to it would be like objecting to gravity. At the base of the Empire are the countless subjugated peoples, the species and worlds conquered across the long centuries, whose lives are labor and fear and early death in service to masters who regard them as tools at best and prey at worst. Above them stand the servants of the dark side, who are not themselves Sith, the soldiers, the overseers, the vast apparatus of control that any empire requires, staffed by beings who have made their peace with serving the darkness in exchange for a place above the truly powerless. and above them, the Sith themselves, the aristocracy of the dark side, the lords and ladies of the abyss, ranging from petty adepts who rule a single city to the great lords who command whole sectors, all of them bound by the single shared understanding that each of them would destroy any of the others for a sufficient increase in power. This is the thing the Jedi find hardest to comprehend, coming as they do from an order built on fellowship and mutual devotion. The Sith Empire is held together by nothing but fear and ambition, and it works. It should not work. A civilization in which every member would betray every other for advantage should tear itself apart in a generation, and indeed the Empire is riven by constant treachery, assassination, coup, and civil war. The histories of the Sith are written in the blood of Sith, killing Sith. But somehow, out of all that mutual predation, an order emerges. The strong rise, the weak are culled, and the whole vicious machine grinds forward, century after century, powered by exactly the hatred and ambition that should destroy it, because the dark side rewards those very things, feeds on them, grows stronger the more its adherents betray and murder and consume one another. The academies are the heart of it, and they are the stuff of nightmares. This is where the Sith are made, where Force-sensitive children, taken from conquered worlds, or bred within the Empire, are shaped into lords of the dark side through a pedagogy of pure brutality. They are taught that compassion is weakness, that mercy is death, that the only law is power, and the only virtue is the will to seize it. They are set against one another from the first day, made to compete for survival, made to murder their own classmates as a matter of curriculum, so that only the strongest and most ruthless emerge. Those who survive the academies are not people in any sense the Jedi would recognize. They are weapons that think, brilliant, powerful, and hollowed out, every capacity for connection, or love, or mercy burned away in the forge, leaving only the hunger and the will. And this is what the Order faces, not a handful of fallen Jedi who kept some flickering ember of their former selves, the way Dooku kept his aristocratic honor, or Vader kept his buried love, not seducible innocence, or tragic fallen heroes, an entire civilization of beings deliberately manufactured to have no light in them at all, produced in industrial quantities by a machine that has been perfecting the process for 10,000 years. When the Jedi imagined facing thousands of Sith, they imagined, without quite realizing it, thousands of Dookas, fallen, yes, dangerous, yes, but recognizably persons, with histories and wounds, and the ghost of a better self somewhere inside. The reality is worse. The reality is thousands of the products of the academies, and there is no better self inside them to reach, because the machine made certain of that before they ever left its walls. The Order learns this slowly, through hard experience, and it changes the character of the war in a way that weighs heavily on the Jedi soul, because a Jedi is trained to see the person inside the enemy, to hold out hope of redemption, to fight without hatred, and to kill only when there is no other way, and even then with compassion for the fallen soul before them. That training, which is the very heart of what makes a Jedi, meets in this age an enemy for whom it is almost entirely useless. You cannot redeem a thing that has no light left to redeem. You cannot reach the person inside a being that was manufactured specifically to have no person inside. And a Jedi who goes into battle against the Sith of this age, still looking for the soul to save, still holding back the killing blow in hope of redemption, is a Jedi who dies. And worse, whose death feeds the very darkness they hope to redeem. This is one of the cruelest tests the age inflicts on the Order. To fight this enemy effectively, the Jedi must let go of one of the deepest and most beautiful parts of what they are, the refusal to give up on any soul. They must learn to strike without holding back, to kill the products of the academies cleanly and without the hope of redemption, because the hope is false and the hesitation is fatal, and in learning that hard necessity, they risk losing something precious, the compassion that is supposed to separate them from the very darkness they fight. How do you kill without hatred a being you cannot hope to save? How do you strike down thousands of hollow weapons that think, without becoming yourself, a little hollow, a little weaponized, a little more like the thing you fight? Anakin, again, is the one who sees this danger most clearly, because it is a subtler cousin of his own fall. The dark side did not take him through hollowness, it took him through too much feeling, too much love turned to fear, and fear to anger. But he understands the machinery of corruption well enough to see that this age offers a second road to the dark, one the academies themselves walk, the road of feeling killing too little, of killing so much and so necessarily that the killing stops meaning anything, of becoming efficient at the destruction of the unredeemable until efficiency is all that is left. He watches his brothers and sisters walk that road in small steps, watches the compassion wearing off them battle by battle, and he understands that the Empire does not need to turn the Jedi into raging fallen heroes to defeat them. It only needs to turn them into tired, competent, hollow killers, into a mirror of its own Academy products, and it will have won, because an order like that is no longer the light, whatever color its blades still burn. The Sith Empire, in other words, is not merely trying to destroy the Order, it is trying, simply by existing, simply by forcing the Order to fight it, to make the Order into a version of itself. And that, the Jedi come to understand, is the deepest danger of the age, deeper than any battle, deeper than the Emperor himself. The danger that in fighting the darkness, over years, over an age, one soul, and one small necessary hardness at a time, they will slowly and unknowingly become it. The scouts return, and the Order changes. Something shifts in the 10,000 when the survivors limp back and tell what they found. Up to this point, for all the grief and the strangeness, there had been an unspoken comfort holding the Order together. The comfort of numbers, of being 10,000 strong, of being the Jedi, an institution that had endured 10,000 years, and would surely find a way to endure this too. The Scouts' report takes that comfort and burns it, because if a single ordinary Sith of this age can nearly kill 4 veterans, then 10,000 Jedi against an empire of Sith is not a war the Order can expect to win. It is, at best, a war the Order can expect to survive for a while. The Council convenes again, and this time the debate is sharp, because the Order is no longer united in shock. It has begun to fracture along the oldest fault line the Jedi have. The line between those who counsel caution and those who counsel action, the line that ran through the whole Clone Wars, the line that, some of them are beginning to suspect, helped destroy them the first time. One faction argues for hiding. The galaxy is vast, they say, and this is a young galaxy, thinly settled, full of empty worlds. The Order could find a refuge on the far rim, a world the Sith have not yet reached, and simply survive. Raise the younglings, preserve the light, keep the flame of the Jedi burning in secret until what? The other faction demands, and the hiders have no good answer, until the Force decides they have hidden long enough. They were not sent 10,000 years into the past to hide. The Force does not spend that kind of power on a people so they can find a nice quiet world to grow old on. There is a purpose here, and hiding is a refusal of it. The other faction argues for war, not reckless war. None of them are fools, and the Scouts' report has cured anyone of overconfidence, but purpose. They were sent here to do something, and the only thing worth sending an army of Jedi 10,000 years back in time to do is to fight the dark when it was at its strongest. Perhaps, this faction argues, that is the whole point. Perhaps the galaxy of their own age, the balanced galaxy, the one where the Sith were reduced to 2 hiding in the shadows, was made possible by something, by some turning point in this ancient war, some moment when the tide against the Sith Empire began to turn. And perhaps the Force has sent them here to be that turning point, to be the reason the Sith Empire falls and the long age of the Republic becomes possible at all. Perhaps they are not being spent. Perhaps they are being aimed. It is Yoda who finally speaks the thought that has been growing in him, and it silences both factions, because it reframes the entire question. Wrong both sides are, he says. Assume, we do, that sent here to win we were, or sent here to die. But know this, we do not. Feel the Force's purpose. I cannot. Clouded it is, clouded as never in my long life. Perhaps to fight, we were sent. Perhaps to hide. Perhaps for a reason neither of us has yet imagined. He is quiet a moment. But this, I feel, changed. This galaxy will be, by our presence in it. Whether we act or hide, ripples we make. Already felt us. The dark side has. Already changed. The future is. The only question that remains, what kind of change we choose to be. And that is the thought that will haunt the Order through everything that follows. They are not tourists in the past, forbidden to touch. They are 10,000 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, dropped into an age they know is fragile, and everything they do, every Sith they kill, every life they save, every world they touch, ripples forward through 10,000 years toward the future they came from. A future that, the more the Masters think about it, may already be unraveling behind them. If they change this age, do they still get born? Does the Republic they knew still rise? Does Order 66 still happen? And if it doesn't, what happens to 10,000 Jedi whose entire existence was predicated on a future they may be in the act of erasing? It is too large to think about, so most of them do not think about it, and simply try to survive, and leave the paradoxes to the masters. But there is one Jedi among the 10,000 for whom none of this is abstract, for whom the question of a changed future is the most personal thing in the galaxy, and his name is Anakin Skywalker, because Anakin remembers what he did. The others were dying when the light took them, dying as victims, as the betrayed, cut down by clones they trusted. Anakin was not a victim in that final moment. Anakin was the executioner. When the Force reached into Order 66 and pulled the Order loose from time, it pulled him loose too, but it pulled him from the other side of the massacre, from the temple, where he had walked with a column of clones behind him and cut down his own people, from the very act of becoming Darth Vader. He remembers the younglings. He remembers the gold of his own eyes, reflected in the polished floor of the temple. He remembers everything, and now he is here, among the very people he slaughtered, wearing the face of the friend they thought they knew, and only a handful of them understand what he is. Because here is the terrible complication that the Order has been too overwhelmed to fully confront. Some of them saw. Some of the survivors were in the temple, or heard the security hollows, or felt through the Force exactly who was leading the clones through their home. To a portion of the Order, Anakin Skywalker is not a grieving brother. He is the traitor. He is the one who turned. He is Darth Vader, somehow here, somehow among them, and the fact that he seems himself again, that the gold has faded from his eyes, that he grieves as they grieve, does not erase what they watched him do. And to another portion of the Order, the larger portion, the ones who were on distant battlefields and did not see, who know only that Anakin fell in the vague way that rumor carries. He is a question mark, a shadow, someone about whom terrible things are whispered but nothing is certain. Anakin lives, in this new age, inside that fracture, watched by those who know, whispered about by those who suspect, and carrying alone the unbearable knowledge that he is the only being in the entire Order who has already made the exact choice this ancient galaxy is going to offer all of them, the choice to reach for the dark to save what he loved. He fell once, to a single whispering Sith, and now he stands in a galaxy with 10,000 Sith, 10,000 voices that could whisper, 10,000 hands held out toward exactly the weakness that destroyed him. He knows, better than anyone alive, how easy it is to fall, and he knows that this galaxy is built from the ground up to make Jedi fall. That is what a Sith Empire is. That is what it does. It does not merely defeat the light, it corrupts it, converts it, turns it. Every Jedi in this Order is a potential Sith, and the ancient enemy knows it, and Anakin is the one man among them who understands in his bones exactly how the turning happens, because it happened to him. That knowledge could be the Order's salvation, or it could be the beginning of a second, worse fall. And in the quiet of the first weeks, in the ancient age, as the Order argues and grieves and prepares, no one, least of all Anakin himself, knows which it will be. If the Order cannot hide and cannot yet fight, then it must do the third thing, the thing that has kept small forces alive against large ones since war began. It must find allies, and there is, in this ancient age, one natural ally, fragile, embattled, and utterly unaware that salvation has just fallen out of the sky, the Jedi Order of this era, the young one, the few hundred knights scattered across the struggling Republic, holding the line against the Sith Empire, with nothing like the numbers or the resources their distant descendants once commanded. If the 10,000 can make contact with the few hundred, if the Order of the future can join hands with the Order of the past, then perhaps, the light has a chance in this age after all. But making that contact is its own kind of danger, and it forces the Council into one of the strangest conversations it has ever had. Because how do you introduce yourself to your own ancestors? How do 10,000 Jedi walk up to the Jedi of the deep past and say, "We are you, from 10,000 years in your future, sent back by the Force through the very fabric of time. And by the way, in our age, your Order was destroyed to the last soul by 2 Sith working in secret, and we would like to help"? Every word of that is both true and insane, and the ancient Jedi, embattled and wary and fighting for their lives, are not likely to greet a sudden army of impossible strangers with open arms. There is also also a deeper fear, one that Yoda names privately to the Council, and that troubles them all. Knowledge is dangerous across time. If the ancient Jedi learn too much, if they learn of the future, of the Republic to come, of the eventual reduction of the Sith to 2, of Order 66 itself, what does that do to them, to the timeline? A Jedi of this age, who learns that his order will one day rule a golden republic, might grow complacent. A Jedi who learns that order will one day be exterminated might despair. The future is a weapon, and handing it to the past is like handing a child a lightsaber. The 10,000 resolve, after long debate, to reveal as little as they possibly can. They will offer their strength. They will not offer their history. The first contact goes badly, and then it goes better, and the whole sequence is one of the most fraught the Order endures. A delegation, Obi-Wan among them, and other level-headed masters, deliberately not Anakin, whose presence is a complication they cannot risk, makes its way to a Republic world where the ancient Jedi are known to hold a garrison. They come in the open, hands visible, intentions peaceful, and they are met with exactly the suspicion they expected. A young order at war does not trust a sudden appearance of unfamiliar Force users, however bright they blaze in the light. There are tense hours. There is the constant awareness, on both sides, that a fight between Jedi would be a catastrophe, and there is the slow, difficult work of building trust between two groups of people who share everything, the same order, the same code, the same devotion to the light, and yet are separated by an abyss of 10,000 years that neither can fully explain across. What finally bridges it is not argument, it is the Force itself, because when the ancient Jedi reach out to take the measure of these strangers, what they feel is unmistakable. These are not Darksiders in disguise, not Sith trickery, not some new horror the Empire has cooked up. These are Jedi. The light in them is real, and deep, and true. The same light the ancient knights have sworn their lives to. Whatever else is strange about them, whatever they will not explain about where they came from, that much the Force makes plain. And a Jedi, in any age, knows another Jedi when the Force lets them look. The alliance that forms is uneasy and incomplete, but it is real. The ancient order agrees to shelter the strangers, to share what it knows of the galaxy and the Empire and the war, and to fight alongside them against the common enemy. The 10,000, for their part, agree to lend their considerable strength to a war that was, before their arrival, being slowly and inexorably lost. And for a brief span, there is something almost like hope. The light in this ancient galaxy, so long outnumbered and outmatched, has suddenly and inexplicably been reinforced by an army from beyond time. It is during this period, as the two orders learn to work together, that the survivors of the future begin to truly understand the galaxy they have fallen into. And the understanding is a horror that deepens with every passing week. They learn the scale of the Sith Empire, and it is vast beyond what even the Scouts' reports suggested. World after world after world, whole sectors of the galaxy under the dominion of the dark side. They learn that the Empire is not a fragile thing held together by a single master, the way Palpatine's schemes had been. Kill the head, and the body dies. It is an institution, a civilization. It has structures and traditions, and a self-perpetuating aristocracy of Darksiders that has endured in one form or another for a very long time. You cannot decapitate it, because it has 1,000 heads, and each of them would happily murder the others for the chance to rule. And they learn the thing that frightens them most, the thing that reframes their entire understanding of the enemy they thought they knew. In their own age, the Jedi had come to think of the Sith as a corruption, a disease, a perversion of the Force, a small dark thing that infected an otherwise healthy galaxy. Here, that comfortable framing dissolves. Here, the dark side is not an infection, it is an ecosystem. The Sith are not aberrations, they are natives, perfectly adapted to a galaxy that has been theirs for centuries. And the light, the Jedi, the Republic, everything the 10,000 holds sacred, is the fragile, embattled, outnumbered exception. In their own time, the Jedi were the establishment, and the Sith were the shadow. Here, it is precisely reversed. Here, they are the shadow. Here, the light is the thing that hides. For an order that has always understood itself as the guardians of a fundamentally bright galaxy, this is a spiritual horror as much as a strategic one. They came from a time when the light had already won, so completely that its victory was invisible, taken for granted, assumed to be the natural order of things. Now they stand in an age when the light has not won, may never win, is losing, and the natural order of things is darkness. and they must confront a question that none of them, in all their 10,000 years of civilization, ever had to ask. What if the balanced galaxy they came from, the Bright Republic, the Jedi Ascendant, the Sith reduced to a whispering pair, was not the default state of the universe at all? What if it was a fragile, hard-won, temporary exception, purchased with blood in ages like this one, and destined always to slide back toward the dark? What if the darkness was the truth of the galaxy, and the light was only ever a candle that a few desperate people kept alive against the wind, and Order 66 was not an aberration, but simply the wind winning, the way it always eventually would? That question sits in the heart of the Order like a splinter of ice, and it is the exact question the ancient Sith, out in the dark, are counting on the Jedi to ask. Because a Jedi who begins to believe the darkness is inevitable is a Jedi who has already taken the first step toward joining it. The Sith Empire does not stay ignorant for long. You cannot drop 10,000 Jedi into a galaxy ruled by the dark side and expect the dark side not to notice. From the first night on the green world, the Sith had felt something. A brightness, a wrongness, a warm light where no light should be. For a time it was only a curiosity, a distant anomaly that the lords of the Empire noted and set aside, occupied as they were with their endless internecine murdering of one another. But as the 10,000 begin to move through the galaxy, as they make contact with the Ancient Order, as they begin, inevitably, to fight, the anomaly stops being distant. Sith begin to die, reports begin to spread, and the aristocracy of the dark side turns its full and terrible attention toward the impossible thing that has appeared in its galaxy. What the Sith learn, they cannot quite believe, and their disbelief buys the Jedi time, because the truth is genuinely unbelievable. An army of Jedi, thousands strong, appearing from nowhere, blazing with a light the galaxy has not seen at that scale, in living memory, fighting with techniques, and a discipline that are subtly, unsettlingly unfamiliar. The Sith have theories, each more paranoid than the last. Some believe it is a trick of a rival lord, a secret army raised to seize the throne. Some believe it is a manifestation of the Force itself, a judgment, an omen. Some, the wisest and most dangerous of them, begin to suspect something closer to the truth, that these Jedi are not of this age at all, that something has torn a hole in time and let the future bleed through. And here the story turns on a distinction that the Jedi themselves have been slow to grasp. The Sith Empire is not one enemy, it is 1,000 enemies, bound loosely together by a shared devotion to the dark and a shared hunger for power, and constantly at one another's throats. This is both the Jedi's greatest danger and their only real hope. A united Sith Empire, 10,000 Darksiders moving with one purpose, would crush the 10,000 Jedi in a single campaign, numbers or no numbers. But the Sith are not united. They are a nest of scorpions, and every lord among them sees the arrival of the Jedi not only as a threat, but as an opportunity, a chance to gain glory by destroying the invaders, or to weaken a rival by letting the invaders bleed him first, or to seize some advantage in the endless war of all against all that is the true internal life of the Empire. The Jedi, learning this, understand at last the shape of the war they must fight. They cannot defeat the Empire in open battle. It is too vast, but they might, just might, survive in the cracks of it, playing the Sith Lords against one another, striking where the Empire is divided, using the enemy's own hunger for power as a weapon against him. It is not the kind of war the Jedi are comfortable fighting. It is a war of shadows and manipulation and playing dark against dark, a war that will require them to think a little like the enemy they oppose. And more than one master notes, privately and with unease, that a war fought this way is a war that could change the people fighting it. But the time for Shadow War has not quite come, because first the Empire must be made to take the Jedi seriously, and that means the first great battle of the New Age is coming whether the Order is ready or not. It comes at a Republic world, on the edge of Sith space, a border world, embattled, one of the last strongholds of the light in a contested sector, and one that a powerful Sith Lord has decided to make an example of. He comes with a fleet and an army and a personal retinue of dark-side adepts, intending to burn the world and its defenders as a demonstration of what happens to those who resist the Empire. He does not know that the world's defenders have been reinforced. He does not know that 10,000 Jedi from the future have chosen this world, this battle, to announce themselves. The battle is the largest engagement of Jedi against Sith that the galaxy has seen in centuries, and it is glorious and it is terrible in equal measure. For the first time since Order 66, the Jedi of the future fight not as scattered survivors, but as an order, thousands of them, arrayed together, a wall of light against the coming dark. And for the first time, the ancient galaxy sees what an order of 10,000 can do. The Sith Lord's forces, expecting a doomed border garrison, meet instead an army of masters and knights who fought a 3-year war and survived their own extinction. The dark side adepts, accustomed to overwhelming isolated Jedi through sheer numbers, find themselves outnumbered for the first time in their lives. The battle is a hammer blow, and when it ends, the Sith Lord is dead, his fleet is broken, and the border world stands. It is a victory, the first real victory, and the Order, for one shining moment, allows itself to believe that perhaps the Force did send them here to win, that perhaps, with their numbers and their skill and their hard-won unity, they can turn the tide of this ancient war and become the turning point they hoped they were. But the victory has a shadow, and the shadow falls in 2 ways. And both of them matter enormously for what is to come. The first shadow is cost. The Jedi won, but they did not win cleanly. Even outnumbering their enemies, even fighting at their best, they lost people. Good knights, seasoned masters, some of the very souls the Force had saved from Order 66, dead now on an ancient world 10,000 years from home. Every ancient Sith, it turns out, is worth several Jedi in a straight fight, and even a battle the Jedi win is a battle that thins their irreplaceable ranks. They are 10,000. They cannot be reinforced. Every death is permanent, and every death brings the final darkness one step closer, and a war of attrition against an empire of tens of thousands is a war they must eventually lose, however many battles they win along the way. The second shadow is subtler and worse. In the heat of the battle, some of the Jedi, pressed hard, fighting for their lives, watching their friends die around them, reached for something they should not have reached for. Not the dark side, not fully, not yet, but the edge of it, the anger, the hatred, the cold and thrilling power that comes when a Jedi stops holding back, stops fighting from serenity, and starts fighting from rage. In their own age, in the balanced galaxy, such moments were rare and troubling and quickly corrected. Here, in this galaxy soaked in the dark side, where the very air seems to whisper give in, let go, take the power that is offered, here, those moments come more easily and correct themselves more slowly and leave a residue behind. The Order won the battle, but some of the Order came out of it a little darker than they went in, and no one felt this more keenly or watched it with more dread than Anakin Skywalker, who fought in that battle among his brothers and sisters, and who recognized, in the eyes of Jedi coming down off the high of victory, the exact look he once wore, the look of someone who has tasted the power of the dark and found, to their private horror, that they liked it. The Force sent an army of light into an ocean of darkness, and the ocean, patient and vast and certain of itself, has begun, one Jedi at a time, one battle at a time, one small surrender at a time, to seep in. Amid all the strategy and the philosophy and the vast questions of timelines and empires, there is a smaller story running through the whole of the age, and it is in many ways the one that matters most, because it is the story of the children. The Force did not only save the Masters and the Knights from Order 66, it saved the Kresh. When the light reached into the massacre and pulled the Order loose from time, it pulled the younglings too. The small ones, the initiates, the children who were the future of the Order, and who, in the timeline the Jedi came from, died in the temple with blue blades coming toward them in the dark. They came back with everyone else, frightened, weeping, some of them wounded, but alive, and their presence changes everything about the war, because an army can accept casualties, but an army responsible for children fights differently, thinks differently, grieves differently. For a time, in the early days, the younglings are the Order's reason to hope, and its reason to be careful. Everything the Masters do, they do partly for the children, to build them a future, to keep them safe, to give the small ones who were nearly murdered a chance to grow up in the light after all. The Kresh is guarded like the treasure it is. The younglings are kept far from the fighting, taught and trained and protected in the Order's hidden strongholds, and the Jedi tell themselves that whatever else this brutal age costs them, the children at least will be spared. But the age does not permit that comfort to last, and the slow erosion of it is one of the quietest tragedies of the whole story, because the war grinds on, and the Order's numbers fall, and the losses mount, and there always comes a point in a war of attrition against an enemy that cannot be outnumbered, when the Order can no longer afford to keep anyone back. The younglings who came from the temple have been growing all through the long years of the war. The small ones become older ones, the initiates become Padawans, and the Padawans, in an Order bleeding toward extinction, become knights before they should, and take their place in the line of battle, because there is no one else, because the alternative is defeat, because an order that will not risk its young is an order that will simply die with its young protected and its cause lost. And so the children the Force saved from Order 66 go, one by one, into the fire of the ancient age. Some of them fall in battle, and every one of those deaths is a wound that goes deeper than any adult loss, because these were the ones who were supposed to be spared, the ones who died once already and were saved, the ones the whole order fought to protect. To lose them a second time, on the far side of 10,000 years, in a war they were born too late to choose, it is almost more than the Order can bear. Some of the masters, watching a youngling they carried out of the temple fall in the deep past, feel something break in them that no strategy or philosophy can mend, and some of the younglings, worse than dying, are lost to the dark, because the children are not immune to the pressure of the age. If anything, they are more vulnerable, young and untried, their characters not yet fully formed, thrust into horror before they were ready. A youngling who watches a friend die, who feels the constant seductive whisper of the dark side that saturates this galaxy, who is asked to be a warrior before they were ever fully a child. Such a youngling can waver and fall, and the Order loses to the abyss a soul it fought across time itself to save. These are the losses that test the Order's faith most severely. It is one thing to accept the fall of a grown knight who made their own choices. It is another to watch a child, saved from one massacre, only to be broken by another age, slip into the dark before they ever had the chance to become who they might have been. It is here, in the story of the children, that Anakin's role as the Order's conscience reaches its most tender and most painful expression, because Anakin, of all the Order, carries a specific and terrible guilt about younglings. He knows what he did in the temple, in the other timeline, in the hour of his fall. He knows that the children of the Kresh died, the first time, at his own hand, and now here they are, saved, alive, growing up around him. And now here they are, some of them, going into battle and dying, and some of them wavering toward the dark he knows so well. For Anakin, every youngling is both a chance at redemption and a fresh wound. To protect them, to teach them, to hold them back from the fall he understands better than anyone, is the closest thing to atonement he will ever have for what he did in that temple. And to fail, to lose one of them, to battle or to the dark, is to feel the old guilt open again, like a wound that will never fully close. He becomes, in the later years of the war, something like a guardian of the young, not their teacher in the formal sense, but their protector against the specific danger he understands best. He watches the older younglings, the ones going into battle, for the first signs of the corruption he knows so intimately. He sits with the ones who have seen too much, who are wavering, who are one grief away from the fall, and he does for them what no one did for him. He reaches them before the dark does. He tells them the truth about where the anger leads, offers them the map of his own falling as a warning, holds them close in the way the old Cold Order never would have, and every youngling he keeps in the light is, for Anakin, a child in that temple unkilled, a small piece of the unforgivable made, if not forgivable, then at least answered. The story of the children is the story of the whole age in miniature, the saved who must be risked, the protected who cannot, in the end, be protected, the future fought for at the cost of the very ones who were supposed to inherit it, and through it all, the terrible, beautiful Jedi truth that Yoda will finally name at the crisis, that you cannot cling even to the children, cannot make even their survival the thing you fight for, because to serve the light is to give everything, and everything means everything, and the hardest sacrifice of all is the willingness to risk the ones you would most wish to save. In the weeks after the Border World victory, the thing Anakin feared begins to spread, and it spreads in the quietest and most insidious way imaginable, not as a fall, but as an adaptation. No Jedi wakes up one morning and decides to become a Sith. That is not how it works. Anakin, of all people, knows that is not how it works. It works by increments. It works by a knight in a desperate battle drawing on anger, because anger is faster than serenity, and surviving because of it, and filing away the lesson. It works by a master watching a friend die, and letting the grief curdle into hatred of the thing that killed them, because hatred is easier to carry than grief. grief. It works by 10,000 small, understandable, forgivable surrenders to the pressure of a galaxy that rewards the dark and punishes the light, and by the slow accumulation of those surrenders into something that is no longer quite the Jedi Order that arrived. And this galaxy applies that pressure relentlessly. The dark side is not passive here. It is thick in the air, ancient and patient and everywhere, and it presses on the light-siders constantly, wearing at them, whispering to them, offering them power in their moments of weakness, the way water offers itself to a crack in stone. In their own age, the Jedi lived in a galaxy where the light was the ambient condition and the dark was the intrusion. Here, it is reversed, and the constant background radiation of the dark side is doing to the Order, slowly, what a single whispering Sith once did to Anakin. The Masters see it. Yoda sees it most clearly of all, and it grieves him beyond words, because he recognizes it. This is the same corruption that took the Order the first time, only faster and more visible. In the last age, the Jedi were blinded to their own decline. The dark side clouded their vision, and they did not see the shadow growing in their own ranks until Order 66 made it undeniable. Here, at least, they can see it happening, but seeing a thing and stopping it are not the same, and the Council struggles to find any answer to a corruption that comes not from a single enemy to be defeated, but from the very air of the age they are trapped in. It is in this crisis that Anakin Skywalker finds, at last, his terrible and necessary purpose, because Anakin is the one being in the entire Order who has walked all the way down the road the rest of them are only beginning to step onto. He is the one who fell. He is the one who reached for the dark to save what he loved and found himself, at the end of it, standing in a temple full of children he had murdered. And that means he is the one who understands, from the inside, exactly how the fall happens. Every stage of it, every lie you tell yourself, every small surrender that feels like strength until you look up and discover you have become a monster. At first, he says nothing. How can he? To a portion of the Order, he is the traitor, the fallen one, Vader wearing a familiar face. What standing does he have to counsel anyone on the dark side, he who succumbed to it more completely than any Jedi in 10,000 years? For a long time, he carries his knowledge in silence, watching his brothers and sisters take the first steps he once took, wanting desperately to warn them and believing he has forfeited the right. It is Obi-Wan who changes that. Obi-Wan, who watched Anakin fall and loved him anyway, who fought him on Mustafar and left him to burn and grieved him for the rest of a life that Order 66 cut short. Obi-Wan, who alone among the Order has fully reckoned with what Anakin is and what he did and has chosen, in this second impossible chance, to see the man, and not only the monster. It is Obi-Wan who tells Anakin the truth he cannot see himself, that his fall is not only his shame, it is also the Order's only map. Anakin has been to the country the whole Order is now wandering toward in the dark, and he has come back, and that makes him not the least qualified to guide them, but the most. And so Anakin Skywalker becomes something no one, least of all himself, could have predicted. He becomes the Order's conscience, the one who watches for the signs because he knows them from the inside, the one who sits with a knight who reached too far in a battle and drew on anger to survive, and tells them, without judgment, exactly what that road looks like from the far end of it, because he has walked it, the one who can say to a grieving master, I know how much easier the hatred is to carry than the grief. I chose the hatred, and here's what it cost me. The fallen one becomes the guardian against falling. The greatest failure in the history of the Order becomes its most vital teacher. It does not heal the fracture around him. There are still those who cannot look at Anakin without seeing the temple, and they are not wrong to feel what they feel, and Anakin does not ask them to forgive him. But even some of those, watching him work, watching him pull Jedi back from the edge he once went over, begin to understand something about redemption that the Jedi Code, in all its wisdom, never quite captured. That the point of a fall is not only the falling, that a soul which has been to the bottom and climbed back carries a knowledge that a soul which never fell can never have. That Anakin, precisely because he became Vader, is the only one who can teach the Order how not to. And there is a deeper thing here, a thing that Anakin himself only slowly comes to understand, and it reframes his entire existence. Perhaps this is why. Perhaps this is the reason the Force pulled the Order out of Order 66 and cast it into this age of darkness, not in spite of the fact that it would include Anakin, the fallen one, but because of it. An order of pure and unfallen light dropped into this galaxy might simply be corrupted and consumed, one small surrender at a time, with no one among them who truly understood what was happening until it was too late. but an order that includes a redeemed Vader, an order with a living map of the fall, walking in its ranks, might survive, might resist, might do the thing the Jedi failed to do the first time, and recognize the darkness growing within before it becomes Order 66 all over again. The Force did not send the Order back despite Anakin's sin. It may have sent them back because of it, and Anakin, who has spent his whole second existence believing himself the one stain on an order of victims, begins to wonder if the most monstrous thing he ever did might, in some incomprehensible cosmic accounting, be the very thing that saves them all. He does not let himself believe it fully. That way lies its own kind of pride, its own kind of trap, the belief that his sin was secretly a gift, that the ends justified the horror. He of all people knows where that thinking leads, but he holds it, carefully, as a possibility, and it gives him something he has not had since the light took him from the temple. It gives him a reason to keep climbing. There is, at the top of the Sith Empire, a presence that the Jedi have not yet had to face, and it is the true horror at the heart of this age. The Empire, for all its thousand squabbling lords, is not entirely headless. At its summit sits a Sith Emperor, not a title the Jedi of the future would have used, but the nearest word for the thing that rules the dark side in this age, ancient beyond reckoning, powerful beyond anything the Jedi have ever faced. Where Palpatine was a spider spinning a 1,000-year scheme in secret, this being has ruled openly for a span of time that beggars belief, kept alive by dark arts the Jedi can barely comprehend, its mind vast and cold and patient in a way that makes even Yoda's 9 centuries seem like a brief candle. It does not squabble with the lesser lords. It does not need to. It sits above them all, and it watches, and it waits, and it has watched and waited through the rise and fall of more schemes and rivals and threats than there are stars in the sky. For a long time, the Emperor pays the Jedi little mind. 10,000 lightsiders, however unexpected, are a matter for the lesser lords to handle, a disturbance in the provinces beneath the direct attention of the throne. But as the Jedi survive, as they win battles they should not win, as their strange un-Sith-like manipulation of the Empire's own divisions begins to actually work, the Emperor's cold gaze finally, slowly, turns toward them. And when it does, it perceives something the lesser lords could not. The Emperor is old enough and subtle enough to feel the truth that others only guessed at. These Jedi are not of this age. They carry the future on them like a scent. Their light is shaped by 10,000 years of history that has not happened yet, and to a being that has spent an eternity accumulating power and knowledge, that has schemed across centuries, that thinks in spans of time no mortal could hold, the arrival of visitors from the deep future is not merely a threat. It is the single most interesting thing that has happened in a very, very long time, because the Emperor wants what they have, not their light. The Emperor has no use for light, their knowledge. They come from the future. They know what is coming. They know how this age ends, how the Empire falls or endures, how the long war between light and dark ultimately resolves across the 10,000 years between this moment and the one they came from. To a being obsessed above all else with its own eternal survival, that knowledge is the most precious thing in the galaxy. The Jedi are walking prophecies, and the Emperor begins to want them not dead, but captured, taken, broken open, so that the future inside them can be read. This changes the entire war. Up to now, the Jedi have faced an enemy that wanted them destroyed, and destruction, however dangerous, is a thing they understand how to resist. Now they face an enemy that wants them alive, that wants their minds, their memories, their knowledge of what is to come. And that is a subtler and more terrible danger, because a captured Jedi, broken by the dark arts of a Sith Emperor who has had 10,000 years to perfect the breaking of minds, might give up not only tactical secrets, but the future itself. And a Sith Empire that knows its own future is a Sith Empire that might change it, might reach forward across the millennia and strangle the bright Republic in its cradle, might ensure that the balanced galaxy the Jedi came from never comes to be at all. The stakes, which were already unbearable, become something worse. The Jedi are no longer only fighting for their survival, or even for the survival of the light in this age. They are fighting to protect the future itself from an enemy who would unmake it. Every Jedi who might be captured is a door through which the Emperor could reach 10,000 years forward and rewrite everything, and so the Order adds a grim new discipline to its war. No one is taken alive. Not because the Jedi have grown callous, but because the alternative, a brother or sister broken open on the Emperor's rack, spilling the future into the hands of the dark, is worse than any death. It is under this shadow that the true shape of the war emerges, and it is a shadow war, a war of infiltration and manipulation, and playing the Sith Lords against one another. Exactly the kind of war the Jedi feared they would have to fight. They cannot win in the open, they are too few, so they fight in the cracks. They learn the Empire's fracture lines and drive wedges into them. They let ambitious lords believe the Jedi are secretly aiding their bids for the throne, and then let those bids collapse into mutual slaughter. They strike at supply lines and academies, and the infrastructure of the dark side, bleeding the Empire in 1,000 small cuts, while avoiding the great battles that would grind them down. They become, in this ancient age, something the Jedi of the future would scarcely recognize: a hidden order, a shadow working through misdirection and secrecy against an enemy too large to face directly. And here is where the war becomes truly perilous to the soul of the Order, because a shadow war is a war that changes the people who fight it. To manipulate the Sith, the Jedi must think like the Sith. To play the Lords against one another, they must engage in deception, in ruthlessness, in the cold calculus of sacrificing this world to save that one, of letting an evil live because its death would serve a greater evil. These are not Jedi virtues. These are the tools of the enemy, and the more skillfully the Order learns to wield them, the more some among them begin to wonder whether they are still fighting the darkness or slowly becoming a subtler form of it. The debates in the Council grow sharper and more anguished. Is a Jedi who deceives still a Jedi? Is a Jedi who lets thousands die to save millions serving the light, or merely serving a more sophisticated darkness? The Code gave answers to these questions in the balanced galaxy of the future, where such choices were rare and extreme. Here they are daily. Here, every day, the Order must choose between its principles and its survival, and every day the choice wears a little more of the principles away. Yoda feels the Order slipping, and he cannot find solid ground to arrest the slide, because there is no solid ground in this age, only the endless pressure of the dark, and the impossible choices, and the slow erosion of everything the Jedi believed themselves to be. And in his private meditations, the Ancient Master confronts the most frightening possibility of all, that the Force did not send the Order here to defeat the darkness, that it sent them here to be tested by it, and that the test is not one the Order is passing. Through all the years of the war, two figures carry the Order on their shoulders, and the weight they bear is worth pausing on, because their private struggles are the human heart beneath the grand tragedy of the age. Yoda is 900 years old, and he was tired before any of this began. Understand what the Ancient Master has already endured before the Force ever pulled him into the deep past. He led the Jedi Order through the Clone Wars, watched it be manipulated into a military force, watched the code bent and the ideals compromised, watched his people become generals in a war he sensed, without being able to prove, was a trap. He felt the dark side clouding the Force, and could not pierce the cloud, and then he felt Order 66, felt thousands of his people die in a single hour, felt the Order he had served for 9 centuries destroyed in the space of a breath. He was there for the end of 10,000 years of Jedi civilization. That grief alone would have been enough to break a lesser soul, and now, saved from that ending, he must do it all again. He must lead the Order through a second impossible ordeal, in an age even darker than the one that destroyed it, watching his people die a second time, one by one. Across the long years of a war, he is not certain they can win. There are moments, private moments, in the depths of his meditations, when Yoda feels the full weight of his 900 years, and his double grief, and wonders whether he has the strength to carry the Order through this second trial. He has led them so far already, he is so tired, and the age keeps asking more. But Yoda has one thing that sustains him, and it is the thing that makes him the greatest Jedi of any age. He has learned, across his long life, to find the light in the darkest places. He does not deny the grief, or the exhaustion, or the doubt. A Jedi who denies such things only feeds them. He acknowledges them, and holds them, and lets them pass through him, and returns again and again to the deep well of the Force that has sustained him for 9 centuries. And he does the thing a leader must do that no one else can do for him. He carries the despair of the whole Order, absorbs it, and gives back hope, so that 10,000 souls can keep fighting, because the Ancient Master at their center has not given up. It costs him more than any of them know, but he does it because it is his to do, and because after 900 years, he has learned that the carrying is itself a form of the light, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is the other pillar, and his burden is different, and in some ways heavier. Obi-Wan is the Order's steady heart, where Yoda is its ancient wisdom. Obi-Wan is its endurance, its decency, its refusal to break. Through every crisis of the age he is there, calm and capable and kind. The man everyone turns to, the one who holds the line when the line threatens to break. But the steadiness costs him, and few see the cost, because Obi-Wan has spent his whole life making the carrying of impossible burdens look effortless. He carries the grief of the war, he carries the weight of leadership alongside Yoda, and he carries privately the most complicated burden of any soul in the Order, Anakin, because Obi-Wan alone has fully reckoned with what Anakin is. He watched Anakin fall the first time. He fought him on Mustafar. He struck him down and left him to burn, and carried the grief of that failure through the rest of a life that Order 66 cut short. And now Anakin is here, redeemed, become the Order's conscience, become the very best of what he might have been, and Obi-Wan has him back. The brother he lost, the apprentice he failed, returned against all possibility, and this time walking in the light. It is a gift beyond any Obi-Wan dared hope for, and it is a wound that never fully closes, because Obi-Wan cannot look at the redeemed Anakin without also remembering the fallen one, cannot embrace the brother returned without also grieving the brother lost, cannot fully trust the light in Anakin without a small cold voice reminding him how completely that light once failed. Obi-Wan lives inside that tension for the whole of the age, and he chooses, every day, to come down on the side of love. He chooses to see the redeemed man, and not only the fallen one. He chooses to trust, though trust once cost him everything. He chooses to be the brother Anakin needs, to stand beside him, to defend him against the suspicion of those who cannot forgive, to believe in the redemption even when belief is hard. And that choice, quiet, daily, unheralded, is one of the most heroic things any soul does in the whole story, because it is easy to love someone who has never betrayed you. It is one of the hardest things in the galaxy to love, fully and without reservation, someone who did the unforgivable and came back. Obi-Wan does it. He does it for years, and in doing it, he gives Anakin the one thing that makes the redemption possible, a brother who never gave up on him, even knowing exactly what he was. The bond between them, healed across 10,000 years, and one shared redemption, becomes the quiet center of the Order, the living proof of everything the Order is trying to become. If Obi-Wan can forgive Anakin, can love the redeemed monster, can hold his fallen brother close, then the Order can learn to hold all its wounded close, can become the warmer and truer thing the age demands. Obi-Wan and Anakin, the master and the apprentice who destroyed each other on Mustafar, become in the deep past the model of the new Jedi way, the way of holding on, of forgiving, of refusing to give up on a soul however far it has fallen. They failed each other catastrophically in the future, and they are given, in the past, the chance to show the whole Order what it looks like to not fail each other after all. Yoda's ancient endurance and Obi-Wan's steady love, these are the two pillars the Order rests on through the long dark of the age. Neither is flashy, neither wins battles by itself, but without them the Order would have broken 100 times over, dissolved into despair or suspicion, or the slow corruption of the dark. They are the reason 10,000 traumatized survivors of a massacre held together long enough to become the thing that saved an age. And when the final confrontation comes, and the Order must spend itself utterly against the Emperor, it is on the foundation these two laid, Yoda's hope and Obi-Wan's love, that the whole last sacrifice is built. The Shadow War deserves to be understood not only in its philosophy, but in its practice, because it was in the specific, grinding, morally fraught episodes of that war that the Order's soul was most tested, and it is worth walking through a few of them to feel the weight of what the Jedi took upon themselves. Consider the matter of the two rival lords. Deep in the war, the Order identified two great Sith of a contested sector, bitter rivals, each commanding armies, each hungering for the other's territory and the other's death. United, they were a mortal threat to the rising light in that sector. Divided, set fully against each other, they might destroy one another and clear the ground for the resistance. And so, the Order did a thing that the Jedi of the future would have found abhorrent. It engineered a war between them. It planted evidence. It intercepted and altered communications. It arranged for each lord to believe the other had moved against him, had insulted him, had schemed for his territory, feeding the paranoia that was the native condition of every Sith until the two rivals fell upon each other with their full strength. The resulting war between them was catastrophic. Whole worlds burned, hundreds of thousands died, Sith soldiers and subjugated peoples alike, in a conflict the Jedi had deliberately kindled, and when it was over, both lords were dead or broken, and the sector lay open to the rising light, and the Order had achieved its aim, but at what cost to itself? The Jedi who planned that operation had to sit with the knowledge of what they had done, that they had, with cold calculation, arranged the deaths of hundreds of thousands. Yes, to serve the light. Yes, to weaken an evil empire and free a suffering sector. But the calculation itself, the willingness to spend so many lives as pieces on a board, the manipulation and deception, and the deliberate kindling of slaughter, these were the tools of the enemy, and the Jedi who wielded them could feel, afterward, what the wielding had done to them. It is one thing to know that the ends can justify terrible means. It is another to be the one who chose the means, and to carry the weight of it, and to wonder whether the light you serve can survive being served this way. Some of the Jedi who fought the Shadow War most effectively were the ones it changed most deeply, who became, in their skill at manipulation and their comfort with hard calculation, something a little colder, a little more like the thing they fought, even as they struck it the heaviest blows. Consider, too, the matter of the world that had to be abandoned. There came a point in the war when the Order faced an impossible choice, two worlds under threat, both crying out for aid, and only strength enough to save one. One world was strategically vital. Its salvation would advance the rising light across a whole region. The other was strategically minor, but its people had risen bravely, had trusted the Order, had staked their lives on the promise that the light would protect them. The cold calculation was obvious. Save the vital world. Let the minor one fall. It was the correct decision in the ruthless arithmetic of the Shadow War, and the Order made it, and the minor world fell, its risen people slaughtered by the Empire as an example, dying with the Order's unkept promise on their lips, because the Jedi, who could have come, chose not to come, chose to let them die because their deaths bought more than their salvation would have. The Jedi who made that choice were correct, and it destroyed something in them to be correct, because a Jedi is not supposed to abandon the people who trust them. A Jedi is not supposed to weigh lives on a scale and let the lighter side fall. That is precisely the kind of cold utilitarian calculation that the Sith embrace, and the Jedi are meant to reject. The treating of persons as means, as pieces, as acceptable losses, and yet the Shadow War demanded it, again and again, and the Order either made those choices and won, or refused them and lost, and there was no third path. This is the deepest corruption the age worked on the Order, not the dramatic fall of a knight to rage, but the slow moral erosion of good souls forced, day after day, to make choices that a Jedi should never have to make, until the making of such choices became habit, and the habit became character, and the character became something that was winning the war, and losing the thing the war was supposed to protect. Anakin watched all of this with a specific and terrible clarity, because he understood that this, too, was a road to the dark, subtler than his own, but no less real. His fall had been hot. Love turned to fear, turned to rage, a passionate reaching for forbidden power. The fall the Shadow War threatened was cold, the slow freezing of the Jedi heart, the gradual acceptance of ends justify means, the quiet transformation of guardians of life into calculators of acceptable loss. He argued against it in the Council, again and again, warning that a light which wins by becoming darkness has not won at all, and he was not always heeded, because the alternatives were real, and the losses of refusing the hard calculations were also real, and the war did not offer clean choices, only different kinds of stain. It was one of the great unresolved tensions of the age, and the story does not pretend to resolve it cleanly, because it does not resolve cleanly. The Order fought the Shadow War because it had to, and the Shadow War changed the Order, and the change was a kind of wound that the final sacrifice would ultimately, in a sense, heal, because when the Order finally spent itself utterly against the Emperor, it did so not through cold calculation, but through the purest act of selfless love, and that final act washed clean, at least in part, the accumulated stains of the long Shadow War. The Order that had learned to manipulate and calculate and sacrifice the few for the many ended by sacrificing itself entirely for a light it would never see. And in that ending, the coldness that the Shadow War had bred was burned away in a last great warmth, but that was still to come. In the long middle years of the war, the Shadow War ground on, and the Order won its terrible victories, and paid for them not only in blood, but in the slow erosion of its own soul, and carried the weight of what it had become toward the reckoning that waited at the war's end. It was always going to happen, in a galaxy built to turn the light, with 10,000 Jedi pressed daily against the wearing pressure of the dark. It was only ever a question of who would be first, and when. The first Jedi falls, not to capture, not to death, to the Empire, willingly, in the end, though the willingness was built one small surrender at a time until the final choice barely felt like a choice at all. A knight, capable and respected, a survivor of Order 66 who fought bravely on the border world, and bravely in a dozen engagements since. Someone no one would have suspected. That is the horror of it. It is never the one you suspect. The dark side does not take the obviously weak. It takes the strong, because the strong have the most to offer it, and because the strong are the most certain they could never fall, and certainty is the crack the darkness pours itself into. The fall, when the Order reconstructs it afterward, follows a pattern that Anakin recognizes with sick familiarity, because it is his own pattern wearing another face. It began with a loss, a friend killed, a mission failed, a grief that would not heal. It continued with anger, and the anger felt righteous, felt earned, felt like strength. It deepened with the discovery that the anger made the knight more powerful, more effective, more able to strike back at the darkness that had taken what they loved. And somewhere in there, without any single moment that could be pointed to as the turning, the knight crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed, began to fight, not to protect the light, but to punish the dark, which is a different thing, a Sith thing, though it wears the light's face right up until the end. And the Empire was waiting. Of course it was waiting. The Sith have been turning Jedi for their entire existence. It is the oldest game they play, and they play it with a patience and a cunning that the Republic Jedi, who faced this only rarely, were never equipped to counter. A Sith Lord found the knight at the moment of maximum vulnerability and did not attack, did not threaten, offered understanding, sympathy, the seductive, poisonous validation of everything the knight already felt. Yes, your anger is righteous. Yes, the ones who took your friend deserve to suffer. Yes, the Jedi hold you back with their weak talk of serenity and detachment. Yes, the power you have tasted is your birthright, and there is so much more of it, and all you have to do is reach out and take it. The knight reached out, and the Order lost one of its own, not to the enemy's blade, but to the enemy's whisper, exactly as it lost Anakin the first time, exactly as it was destroyed the first time, from within, quietly, by the slow patient work of the dark on a wounded heart. The impact on the Order is devastating, and it is devastating in a way the battle deaths were not. A Jedi killed in battle is a grief, but a clean one. A brother fallen, doing what brothers do, still one of them, still light, mourned and honored. A Jedi turned is something else entirely. It is a wound that keeps bleeding, because the fallen knight is still out there, now, in the service of the Empire, carrying everything they knew about the Order, its strength, its plans, its hiding places, its secrets, and carrying, worst of all, knowledge of the future, the very thing the Order has been fighting and dying to keep from the Emperor's grasp. The one nightmare the Jedi swore to prevent, a mind full of the future, in the hands of the dark, has come to pass, and it came not through capture, but through corruption, through a door the Order left open in its own ranks because it did not know how to close it. The recriminations begin almost at once, and they threaten to tear the Order apart more surely than any Sith army. How did no one see it? How could a knight fall in their very midst and no one stop it? And beneath those questions, uglier ones, the questions that fear always breeds, who else? Who else among the 10,000 is slipping, is wavering, is one grief away from the same fall? The trust that held the Order together through Order 66 and the journey through time and the long war since begins, for the first time, to crack. Jedi look at one another differently. The shadow that has always hung over Anakin, the traitor, the fallen one, now spreads to touch everyone. If a respected knight could fall, then anyone could fall, and no one can be entirely trusted, and an Order that cannot trust itself is an Order already half defeated. It is Anakin who steps into this, because it is Anakin's particular hell and Anakin's particular gift. He knows this territory. He is the world's foremost expert on falling, and on the suspicion that follows it, having lived on both sides of it. And he does the thing that no one else in the Order is equipped to do. He refuses to let the fall become a witch hunt. He stands before the Council and the Order, and he tells them the truth that his own life has taught him, that fear of the fall is itself a road to the fall, that an order which turns on itself in suspicion, which hunts for traitors in its own ranks, which meets the darkness with more darkness, has already begun to lose, that the night did not fall because the Order failed to watch closely enough. The night fell because the Order did not know how to help a wounded heart heal, and the answer to that is not more watching, but more healing, not less trust, but more. It is, in a way, the argument the Order should have had 10,000 years in the future, and never did. The argument that might have saved Anakin himself, if anyone had made it in time. The Jedi of the Old Republic met the danger of the dark side with detachment, with rules, with suspicion, with the cold policing of emotion that drove a grieving Anakin into Palpatine's waiting arms. And here, in the deep past, with the stakes higher than they have ever been, Anakin argues for the opposite, for attachment in the true sense, for the Order to hold its wounded close, rather than hold them at arm's length, for a Jedi to be allowed to grieve, openly, among people who love them, rather than to carry the grief alone in the dark, where the Sith can find it. Not everyone accepts it. The fracture does not fully heal, but something shifts in the Order in response to the first fall, a hard-won and painful wisdom, purchased with the loss of one of their own. They begin, slowly and imperfectly, to become a different kind of Order than the one that was destroyed. Warmer, closer, more willing to hold one another through the grief that this brutal age inflicts without end. It is not the Jedi way as the Old Republic understood it. It is something new, forged in the fire of an age that would have consumed the old way entirely. Whether it will be enough, whether a changed order can survive where the old one could not, remains to be seen. But the fallen knight is still out there, in the Emperor's service, carrying the future in a broken mind, and that reckoning is still to come. The fallen knight becomes the Empire's weapon against the Order, and for a time, the war goes very badly indeed. Everything the knight knew, the Empire now knows. The Order's strengths and its weaknesses, its methods of playing the Sith Lords against one another, which means the Empire can now guard against those methods, and worse, can feed the Order false openings, luring it into traps baited with exactly the kind of internal Sith division the Jedi have learned to exploit. The Shadow War, which depended on the Jedi understanding the Empire better than the Empire understood itself, curdles as the Empire begins, for the first time, to understand the Jedi. Battles that should have been victories become ambushes. Safe houses are compromised. The careful web of manipulation the Order spent months building comes apart, strand by strand, betrayed from within, and the Emperor, through the fallen knight, begins to learn about the future. This is the slow catastrophe the Order has dreaded from the beginning, and now it unfolds in earnest. The Knight does not know everything. No single Jedi carries the whole of 10,000 years of history in their head, but they know enough. They know that the Sith Empire falls, eventually. They know that a great republic rises in its place and endures for millennia. They know, in broad strokes, the shape of the future the Order came from, and the Emperor, patient and vast and eternal, sifts this knowledge with the care of a being who has waited an age for exactly this. The chance to see past the veil of time and learn the fate of everything he has built. What the Emperor learns enrages and terrifies him in equal measure. His empire falls. The dark side, ascendant now, triumphant now, will one day be reduced to a whispering pair hiding in the shadows of a galaxy ruled by the light. Everything he is, everything he has built across his endless reign, is destined for the ash heap of history, to a being whose entire existence is organized around its own eternal survival and supremacy. This is the most intolerable knowledge imaginable, and it hardens in him a resolve that makes him more dangerous than any Sith the Jedi have ever faced. He will change it. He will use the knowledge torn from the Jedi to reach forward across the 10,000 years, and ensure that the future they came from never comes to be. He will strangle the Republic before it can rise. He will hunt the roots of the light before they can grow. He will make the dark side eternal, and he will use the Jedi's own future against them to do it. The Order realizes what is happening and understands that the fallen knight must be stopped, not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. As long as the knight lives in the Emperor's service, the future bleeds into the past, drop by drop, and each drop brings the unmaking of everything closer. It is a grim mission and a tragic one, because the knight is still, in some sense, one of their own, a brother lost, not a stranger. But it must be done, and there is only one Jedi in the Order who truly understands what it means to face a fallen brother, who has stood on both sides of that exact confrontation, and who might be able to do what needs doing with something other than hatred in his heart. Anakin goes to face the fallen knight. It is the mirror of Mustafar, and everyone who understands what Anakin is, understands the terrible symmetry of it. On Mustafar, Anakin was the fallen one, and Obi-Wan came to stop him, came in love and grief and duty, and fought him, and could not save him, and left him to burn. Now Anakin is the one who comes. Now Anakin is Obi-Wan, facing across the fire, a brother who has chosen the dark, trying to find the impossible path between the duty to stop them and the love that refuses to give up on them. He has stood in both places now. He knows how it feels to be the one who fell and reached, at the last, for a hand that was not there, and he is determined, with everything in him, to be the hand this time, to reach the fallen knight in a way that no one reached him. The confrontation is the emotional summit of this stretch of the story, and it is a duel of words as much as blades. Anakin does not come to kill, he comes to bring the knight back, and he brings the one weapon no other Jedi possesses, the truth of his own fall, offered without shame. He tells the knight everything, who he was, what he did, the temple, the children, the years in the mask, serving the very darkness that took the knight now, and he tells them the thing that only he can say with authority. It does not have to be the end. I fell further than you have fallen. I did worse than you have done, and I climbed back. The dark side tells you the fall is final, that once you have gone this far, there is no return, that you belong to it now. It is a lie. It was always a lie. I am the proof that it is a lie. Does it work? That is the question the story holds in tension, because it is not certain, and it should not be certain, because the whole tragedy of the age is that not every fall can be reversed. Perhaps Anakin reaches the knight, and the mission becomes a redemption, and a brother is brought home from the dark against every expectation. A light in the darkness, proof that the Order's new way of holding its wounded close can succeed where the old way's cold detachment failed, or perhaps the knight is too far gone, too deep in the Emperor's service, too changed to be called back, and Anakin must do the thing Obi-Wan could not bring himself to do on Mustafar, must end a fallen brother, cleanly, in sorrow, because the alternative is the unmaking of the future. Either way, it costs him. Either way, it marks him. And either way, it drives home the truth that has haunted this age from the beginning, that the dark side is not an enemy you defeat once, but a pressure you resist forever, and that every soul it touches is a battle whose outcome is never assured. But the confrontation, however it ends, does not undo the damage already done. The Emperor has tasted the future now. He knows his empire is destined to fall, and he has bent the whole terrible weight of his eternal will toward preventing it, and that means the war has entered its final phase. No longer a war of survival, no longer even a war for the light in this age, but a war for time itself. A war to decide whether the future the Order came from will be allowed to exist at all. Somewhere in the long middle of the war, the Order began to understand something about its own arrival that reframed everything. A revelation that came not all at once, but in pieces, assembled from the ancient records, the visions of the Masters, and the slow deep listening to the Force that the Jedi practice above all other arts. The question had haunted them from the first night. Why here? Why now? Of all the moments in the 10,000 years between this age and their own, why did the Force choose to cast the Order into this particular point in the deep past? This specific age of the Sith Empire's power. The Force does nothing without reason. There was a reason, and as the war ground on, the reason began, terribly and beautifully, to become clear. This age was a hinge. That was the revelation. The Masters, meditating on the currents of the Force in this era, came to perceive that they had arrived at one of the great turning points of galactic history, a moment when the future hung genuinely in the balance, when the long dominion of the dark side could either be broken or made eternal, depending on what happened in the span of years the Order found itself living through. In the timeline the Order came from, this age had ended a certain way. The Sith Empire had eventually fallen, the light had eventually risen, the long ascendancy of the Republic and the Jedi had eventually begun, but the Masters came to understand that this outcome had never been certain, that this age had been a near-run thing, that the fall of the Sith Empire and the rise of the light had hung in this era on a knife's edge, and that in some other version of events, some darker branch of possibility, the Empire had not fallen at all, the dark side had made itself eternal, and the bright galaxy the Order came from had never been born. And here the revelation deepened into something that took the Order's breath away. Because the Masters came to suspect that the difference between those two branches, the branch where the light rose and the branch where the dark reigned forever, was them. that the Order's own arrival, 10,000 strong, at this exact hinge of history, was not an accident or a rescue, but a cause, that in the timeline where the light rose, something had turned the tide at this precise moment, some infusion of strength, some spark of hope, some turning point that the histories of the future never adequately explained, and that the something was the Order itself, sent back by the Force, to be the very thing that tipped the age toward the light. The bright galaxy the Order came from had always contained, buried in its deep past, the mystery of why the Sith Empire fell when it did, and the answer, the Order now understood, was standing in the ancient grass, wearing its own face. They fell because we came. The light rose because we were sent to raise it. The future that birthed us was made possible by our own hands, reaching back across 10,000 years to plant the seed of ourselves. It was a closed loop and a perfect one, and it resolved the paradox that had tormented the Order, but it resolved it into something even more demanding, because if the Order's arrival was the cause of the light's rise, then the Order was not free to fail. The future depended on them, not abstractly, but concretely, causally, absolutely. If they faltered here, if the Order was defeated or corrupted or destroyed before it could tip the age, then the tide would not turn, the Empire would not fall, the light would not rise, and the bright galaxy of the future, the Republic, the Jedi Ascendant, everything the Order came from, would simply never come to be. They were not merely fighting for the light of this age, they were the load-bearing pillar of 10,000 years of history. The entire future rested on the outcome of their war. This might have crushed them. Such a weight would crush anyone, but by the time the revelation came clear, the Order had already learned, through Yoda's great teaching, to hold exactly this kind of weight. They had already surrendered their attachment to their own survival, their own timeline, their own existence, and so the revelation that the future depended on them did not crush them. It clarified them. It gave the war a meaning that went beyond survival, beyond even the light of this single age, the meaning of being the hinge on which 10,000 years turned, the spark the Force had reached across time to strike, the cause of everything good that would ever come after. They were not lost refugees from a dead future. They were the deep root of the living future, sent to the one moment where the root had to be planted, tasked with the one labor on which all the rest depended. And there was a comfort in it too, beneath the weight, the comfort of purpose, of meaning, of understanding at last why the Force had done this seemingly cruel thing, tearing them from their deaths and casting them into a darker age. It had not been cruelty, it had been trust. The Force had reached into the moment of the Order's extinction and chosen this Order, these 10,000 souls, out of all the Jedi who had ever lived, to be the ones who would tip the great hinge of history toward the light. It had looked at the whole span of 10,000 years and chosen them for the most important labor in all of it. That was not abandonment. That was the highest honor the Force could bestow. And the Order, understanding this at last, took up its terrible purpose not with despair, but with something like awe. The awe of souls who have discovered that their suffering was not meaningless, that their exile was not punishment, that they were sent to the darkness because they, of all the Jedi who ever were, had been judged worthy to carry the light through it. It did not make the war easier. The losses still came, the corruption still threatened, the Emperor still waited, but it gave the Order the one thing that can sustain a soul through any darkness, the knowledge that the darkness has a purpose, that the suffering is not for nothing, that the light being carried is the light on which everything depends. And carrying that knowledge, the Order went forward into the war's final and most terrible passages, no longer lost, no longer merely surviving, but awake at last to what they were and why they had been sent, ready to be the hinge, ready to tip the age, ready to spend themselves for the future that their sacrifice would make possible. And now, the paradox that has lurked beneath the entire story since the first night on the Green World can no longer be avoided, because the Order is forced to confront, directly, the question of its own existence. If the Emperor succeeds, if he uses the stolen future to reach across the millennia and ensure the Sith Empire never falls, that the Republic never rises, that the balanced galaxy the Jedi came from never comes to be, then what happens to the 10,000 Jedi standing in the ancient past? They were born in a future that would, in that case, no longer exist. Their order, their temple, their entire civilization would be erased from the timeline before it ever began. Would they simply vanish? Would they continue to exist? Orphans of a deleted future, the last remnants of a history that no longer happened? Would they never have been born at all? And if so, who is it that stands here in the ancient past, fighting to prevent their own erasure? The Masters have no answer, because there is no answer. These are questions the Force has never seen fit to make plain, and the Jedi are not physicists, but mystics, trained to trust the Force rather than to map the mechanics of time. But the questions cannot be dismissed, because they bear directly on the war. Every Jedi who fights in this age is fighting, in some sense, for their own existence, and yet the very act of fighting, of changing this age, of killing Sith, and saving worlds, and bending the ancient galaxy toward the light, may be changing the future, just as surely as the Emperor's schemes would. The Order faces an impossible bind. To defeat the Emperor, they must act, but every action ripples forward and alters the future they are trying to preserve. They cannot save their timeline without changing it, and they cannot know whether the changes they make will preserve their future, or erase it as thoroughly as the Emperor's would. Yoda sits with this longer than any of them, and it is Yoda who finally offers the Order something to hold on to. Not an answer, because there is no answer, but a way to bear the unanswerable. He gathers the Order, all 10,000 who remain, and he speaks to them not as a general, but as the oldest and wisest among them, the one who has spent 900 years learning to live inside uncertainty. He tells them the truth, that they may be fighting to preserve a future they are in the act of erasing, that they cannot know whether their victory would save their timeline or unmake it, that the paradox has no solution, and that seeking one will only drive them mad or drive them to despair, and that despair is the dark side's oldest and surest ally. And then he tells them the thing that reframes everything, the thing that is the deepest wisdom of the Jedi and the deepest wisdom of this entire story. It does not matter, not in the sense that nothing matters, the opposite. It does not matter whether their actions preserve their own future, because their own future was never the point. The point was never their survival, their timeline, their continued existence. The point was always the light. A Jedi does not fight to ensure that a particular future comes to pass, or that a particular order gets to exist, or even that they themselves get to be born. A Jedi fights because the light is worth fighting for, here, now, in this moment, regardless of what comes after. If their victory in this age erases their own future, then it erases them, but it may create a better one. A galaxy where the dark side falls sooner, where the Republic rises stronger, where Order 66 never happens at all, because the seeds of it were burned away 10,000 years before Palpatine was ever born. They will never see that galaxy. They may never have existed in it, but it will be brighter for what they did here, and that is enough. That has always been enough. That is what it means to serve the light, to give everything, including your own existence, including the very fact of your having been, for a good you will never see and can never claim. It is the most Jedi thing imaginable, and it is the thing the Order forgot in its long, comfortable centuries of the future, when the light had won so completely that its guardians came to take their own existence for granted, to fight for the preservation of their institution, rather than the service of the light, to become, Yoda does not say this, but some of them hear it, the kind of order that could be corrupted from within and destroyed by two Sith, because it had forgotten that it was never supposed to be about its own survival at all. Here, in the deep past, stripped of everything, facing the possible erasure of their entire existence, the Order rediscovers the thing it lost. It fights not to survive, but to serve. It gives itself to the light with a completeness that the comfortable order of the future never had to muster. And in that giving, paradoxically, it becomes stronger than it has been since the light first took it from Order 66, because an order that has accepted the possible loss of everything, including itself, is an order that the dark side has nothing left to threaten. You cannot corrupt with fear a soul that has already surrendered its own existence. You cannot tempt with survival a soul that has let go of the need to survive. In accepting the paradox, in embracing the possibility of its own erasure, the Order becomes, for the first time, truly free. And that freedom is the weapon the Emperor never anticipated. He has built his entire final campaign around the assumption that the Jedi, like all beings, will fight hardest to preserve themselves, will cling to their future, their existence, their timeline, and can therefore be manipulated, trapped, and broken through that clinging. He does not understand an enemy that has let go of its own survival. He cannot comprehend a foe that fights with total commitment for a future it will never see and may never have existed in. The Emperor has ruled for an age by understanding the hungers of every being he faced, and he is about to meet an order that has surrendered its last hunger, and become, in the surrendering, something he has no idea how to fight. Freed of the fear of its own erasure, the Order stops fighting a defensive war and begins, at last, to fight an offensive one, and the change ripples across the ancient galaxy like the first warmth of a spring after an endless winter. For centuries, the light in this age has been on the retreat. The ancient Jedi Order, a few hundred strong, has spent generations simply trying not to die, ceding world after world to the advancing dark, fighting delaying actions in a war everyone assumed was already lost. The peoples of the galaxy, ground under the heel of the Sith for so long that they can no longer imagine anything else, have made their peace with darkness the way people make peace with a chronic disease, not because they accept it, but because resistance has only ever brought suffering, and hope has only ever been a prelude to fresh despair. The 10,000 changed the equation, and more than the equation, they changed the story, because the galaxy has never seen anything like an order of light on the offensive. World after world that had resigned itself to the dark witnesses, something impossible, the Sith being driven back, a garrison of dark side adepts broken and scattered, a Sith Lord who had ruled a sector for a lifetime cast down, and the people who witness it begin to feel the thing that the Empire has spent centuries stamping out of them: hope. Dangerous, contagious, galaxy-changing hope. The Order understands now that its true weapon in this age is not its 10,000 blades, formidable as they are. 10,000 Jedi, however mighty, cannot conquer an empire of tens of thousands of Sith spread across half a galaxy, but 10,000 Jedi can be a spark, can be the proof, the demonstration, the living argument that the dark is not eternal, that the Sith can be beaten, that the light is worth fighting for after all, and a galaxy full of oppressed, despairing, hopeless peoples, shown that hope, given that proof, is a galaxy that might rise. So the Order becomes something more than an army. It becomes a rallying point. It liberates worlds not to hold them, but to ignite them, leaving behind not garrisons, but hope, not occupation, but the memory of what freedom felt like, and the belief that it could be won again. It seeks out the scattered pockets of resistance that have survived, hidden and hopeless, across the long night of the Empire, and it brings them together, and it gives them a reason to believe. It finds the other forced traditions of this ancient age. For the galaxy of the deep past is stranger and more various than the neat Jedi and Sith binary of the future, full of forgotten orders and lost traditions and small strange sects of Force users who kept to themselves through the long dark, and it makes common cause with them, weaving the scattered lights of the galaxy into something that might, together, stand against the dark. This is the true turning point of the war, and it is not a battle. It is a change in the story the galaxy tells itself. For centuries, the galaxy's story was, the dark has won, the dark always wins, resistance is futile, and hope is a trap. The Order rewrites it, world by world, into a different story. The dark can be beaten, the light is rising, and the age of the Sith is ending at last. And a story like that, once it takes hold, is more powerful than any fleet, because it lives in the hearts of billions, and it cannot be killed by killing any one of them, and it grows in the telling faster than the Empire can stamp it out. The Emperor sees it happening and understands, with his ancient and terrible clarity, that this is the real threat, not the 10,000 blades, but the thing they have kindled. He has ruled for an age by ensuring that his subjects could not imagine an alternative to his rule. The imagination of freedom is the one thing his empire cannot survive, and the Jedi have set that imagination loose across the galaxy like a fire in dry grass. He moves to contain it with all the vast machinery of the dark side: terror, atrocity, the exemplary destruction of worlds that dare to hope. But terror, the Emperor discovers, is a diminishing weapon against a people who have rediscovered hope. The more brutally he strikes at the rising light, the more martyrs he creates, and the brighter the story of resistance burns. He is caught in the oldest trap of tyranny, that the force required to crush hope is the very thing that spreads it. And here, in the rising of the galaxy against the dark, the Order glimpses at last what the Force may have sent it back to do, not to win the war itself. 10,000 Jedi could never win it alone, but to be the spark, to kindle in this ancient, despairing galaxy the fire of resistance that would, over the long centuries to come, eventually burn the Sith Empire down and clear the ground for the Republic to rise. The Jedi of the future have always known that the Sith Empire fell and the Republic rose, but they never knew why, never knew how, never knew what turned the tide of that ancient war, and now they begin to suspect the answer. The tide turned because they turned it. The future they came from was made possible by the very thing they are doing now. They are not visitors to history, they are its authors. The balanced galaxy that birthed them was born in some strange closed loop of the Force, from their own hands, reaching back across 10,000 years to make their own existence possible. It is a vertiginous thought and a hopeful one, and it carries the Order forward into the war's final and most terrible phase, because a rising galaxy is a threat the Emperor cannot ignore, and a threat the Emperor cannot ignore is a threat he will meet with the full and undivided weight of his ancient power. He has toyed with the Jedi through his lessers long enough. The time has come for the oldest and mightiest of the Sith to take the field himself, and the Order knows, with grim certainty, that before this age is decided, it will have to face the Emperor directly, and that such a confrontation will cost more than any battle yet. Before the Emperor takes the field himself, there is one battle that stands above all the others in the long war, the battle that comes to be the turning point of the rising galaxy, and the battle in which the Order pays its heaviest price before the final sacrifice. It deserves to be told in full, because it is where everything the Order has become is tested at once. It begins with a world, a great world, a populous and ancient one, deep in Sith space, that has become the beating heart of the rising resistance. The place where the story of hope the Order kindled has caught most fiercely, where the peoples of a dozen surrounding systems have risen together against their masters. Where the light in this age burns brightest, the Empire cannot allow it to stand. A resistance that succeeds is a resistance that spreads, and so the Empire gathers its strength to crush this world utterly, to make of it such an example that the whole rising galaxy will lose heart, and the fire of hope will gutter out. A great Sith Lord, one of the mightiest still living after the Order's long campaign, leads the assault, with a fleet and an army and a retinue of dark-side adepts drawn from across the sector, and the Order chooses to stand, not because the world can be easily held, it cannot, but because to abandon it would be to abandon the story of hope itself, to prove the Empire's point that the light cannot protect what it kindles. So, the Jedi come, thousands of them, the largest concentration of the Order's strength since the border world so long ago, and they make their stand on the great world alongside the risen peoples, and the battle that follows shakes the sector. It opens in the sky. The Empire's fleet comes on in its cold arrogance, expecting the easy slaughter of a rebel world, and meets instead a defense organized by Jedi who fought a 3-year war of fleets, and know exactly how to make an enemy pay for every kilometer. The risen peoples have ships of their own, cobbled together, outnumbered, outgunned, but crewed by beings fighting for their freedom, and guided by Jedi who can feel the flow of a battle in the Force. The void above the world fills with fire, ships die by the hundreds, and though the Empire's fleet is mightier, the defenders exact a price that no Sith commander expected, because the Empire has forgotten, across its centuries of easy dominion, what it costs to fight people who have something to fight for. But the true battle is on the ground, and it is there that the Order's character is tested to its limit. The Sith Lord lands with his adepts and his army, and the dark side warriors carve into the defenders with the terrible efficiency of the Academy products they are, hollow, brilliant, merciless. And the Jedi meet them, blade against blade, light against dark, in a battle that ranges across the surface of the world for what feels like an age. Here, a knot of Jedi holds a choke point against a tide of dark-siders, giving ground grudgingly, trading their lives to buy time for the civilians to flee. Here, a master duels a Sith adept in the ruins of a city, two masters of the Force, at the height of their powers, until one of them falls. Here, the younglings become knights, the children saved from the temple grown into warriors, fight in the line beside their elders, and some of them do not rise again. Anakin is at the heart of it, and the battle shows the galaxy what the redeemed Chosen One has become. He does not fight from rage. That is the whole point of him, the whole proof of his redemption, and the battle is its ultimate test. All around him is everything that once tempted him to the dark, friends dying, innocence in peril, an enemy that could be struck down more easily with hatred than with serenity. The dark side is thick in the air, whispering, offering, promising, and Anakin fights on in the light, blade moving with the impossible skill that was always his, but the skill now wedded to a serenity he never had the first time, A still center in the chaos, a Jedi at last, in the truest sense, powerful beyond measure precisely because he no longer reaches for the power the dark side offers. Those who fight beside him feel it. In his presence, the whispering of the dark grows quieter, the temptation less, as though his refusal creates a space around him where the light can breathe. He has become an anchor, a fixed point of the light in the storm, and Jedi rally to him not because he is the strongest blade, though he may be, but because near him it is easier to remember who they are. The Sith Lord seeks Anakin out, as the mightiest always seek out the mightiest, and their duel is the centerpiece of the battle. It is a thing of terrible beauty. The Academy honed savagery of the ancient Sith against the serene, redeemed mastery of the fallen chosen one. The Sith Lord fights to kill, drawing on the full depth of the dark side, wielding powers that would have overwhelmed any Jedi of the future order in single combat, and Anakin answers not with greater darkness, but with greater light, meeting savagery with serenity, meeting the dark side's chaos with a stillness the Sith Lord cannot break. The Sith taunts him, probes for the anger, seeks the crack of rage that every fallen soul carries, and finds it sealed, finds a Jedi who has been to the dark and chosen the light and cannot be pushed back across that line by any taunt or any threat. In the end, it is the Sith Lord's own fury that undoes him, his own reaching for ever greater darkness that overextends him, and Anakin's serene blade that finds the opening. The mightiest Sith of the sector falls to the one Jedi in the galaxy who has proven, beyond all doubt, that the fall can be refused. The world is held. The rising galaxy has its great victory, its proof that the light can protect what it kindles. Its story of the day the Order stood, and the Empire broke against it. The fire of hope, which the Empire came to extinguish, blazes higher than ever, and the rising spreads to a dozen new worlds in the wake of the triumph. But the cost is the heaviest the Order has yet paid. Thousands stood on that world, and not all of them rose again. The Order's irreplaceable numbers are thinned terribly, and among the dead are masters and knights the Order can ill afford to lose, and younglings become knights whose deaths reopen every old wound. The victory is real, and it is decisive, and it turns the tide of the age, and it brings the Order one long step closer to the final truth it has been circling from the beginning, that it cannot win this war and survive it, that the light of the age can be saved, but only by an Order willing to spend itself entirely in the saving. The great battle is the proof of concept for the final sacrifice. It shows the Order what it is capable of, and what such capability costs, and it sets the survivors on the last road toward the Emperor, and the ending that waits there. The Emperor comes, and when he comes, the galaxy learns what it truly means to face the master of the ancient Sith. The lesser lords the Jedi have fought until now, the sector governors, the fleet commanders, the academy masters, were terrible enough. Any one of them could match several Jedi, and the Order paid in blood for every victory. But they were, the Order now understands, merely the foothills. The Emperor is the mountain. When he finally deigns to take the field against the rising light, the difference is not one of degree, but of kind. He does not fight the way the lesser Sith fight. He fights the way a force of nature fights. Vast, cold, patient, and seemingly beyond the power of any mortal to resist. His presence in the Force is a horror in itself. Where a lesser Sith is a cold spot, a wrongness, a local shadow, the Emperor is an abyss, a darkness so deep and so total that Jedi in his presence feel their connection to the light guttering like a candle in a gale, feel the serenity draining out of them, feel the whispered invitation of the dark side rise from a murmur to a roar. To stand near him is to stand at the edge of a pit that wants to swallow the light in you, and it takes everything a Jedi has simply to remain themselves in his shadow. Some cannot. Some of the Order, brought into his presence in the battles that follow, feel their hard-won resistance to the dark crumble all at once, feel the abyss reach into them, and find the anger, and the fear, and the grief that the age has planted there, and fall, not over weeks of slow corruption, but in an instant, in the raw, overwhelming presence of the Master of the Dark. The battles against the Emperor's own forces are the worst the Order has yet endured, and they go badly. The Emperor is not only mighty in himself, he is a general tale of 10,000 years experience, and he brings to bear against the Jedi a strategic mind honed across more campaigns than the Order has years of history. He anticipates their movements, he counters their tactics, he turns their own rising galaxy against them, striking at the newly hopeful worlds with such calculated brutality that the fragile fire of resistance begins, in places, to gutter. And he hunts the Order itself with a personal, patient malice, because he still wants what is inside their minds, the future. And every Jedi he can capture, or turn, is another window onto the fate he is determined to unmake. The Order's numbers, never replaceable, begin to fall in earnest. This is the attrition the Masters feared from the very first day, arriving at last in full. Every battle costs Jedi who cannot be replaced, and now the battles come faster and harder, and the losses mount, and the 10,000 become 9,000 become fewer, and each death is a light going out of the galaxy forever. The younglings who were saved from Order 66, who have been growing, in the long years of the war, toward knighthood, now stand in the line of battle because the Order can no longer afford to hold anyone back, and some of them die, and each small death is a grief almost too large to bear, because they were the future, they were the reason, they were what the light took from the temple to save, and the age is devouring them one by one. This is the darkest hour, and the story does not flinch from it because the darkness must be real for the light to mean anything. There are Jedi, in this hour, who despair, who look at the mounting losses and the Emperor's terrible power and the seeming impossibility of the task and conclude that the Force did not send them here to win at all, that Yoda was right on the first night, that they were sent here to be spent, to die a second death in a hopeless age, and that all their hope and all their striving was only a longer road to the same grave, and despair, as Yoda warned, is the dark side's surest ally. Some of those who despair fall. The abyss takes them, because a soul that has given up on the light has already opened the door, and in this darkest hour, the weight of it falls hardest on the three who have carried the most, on Yoda, ancient and failing, who has led the Order through its extinction and its exile and its long war, and now must watch it bleed toward a second ending, on Obi-Wan, who has been the Order's steady heart through all of it, and who is bone-weary in a way that goes beyond the body, and on Anakin, who has become the Order's conscience and its guardian against the dark, and who now feels the abyss of the Emperor's presence reaching into him and finding, waking, the thing he has spent his whole second existence trying to keep buried, because Anakin is more vulnerable to the Emperor than any Jedi alive. He has fallen before, the door in him has been opened before, and the Emperor, with his ancient cunning, senses it, senses in Anakin a soul that has already belonged to the dark, and reaches for it with a special hunger, because to turn the one Jedi who has climbed back from the fall would be to prove the lie that Anakin has staked everything on disproving, that the fall is final, that there is no return, that once the dark has had you, it owns you forever. The Emperor wants Anakin not merely as a weapon, but as a demonstration, proof to the whole rising galaxy that redemption is a fantasy, that the light's greatest testament to hope is a fraud, that even the redeemed belong, in the end, to the dark, and Anakin feels it, feels the pull, stronger than it has been since the first fall, feels the old familiar seduction of the power that could save the people he loves, feels the abyss of the Emperor's presence resonating with the abyss that still lives, however buried, in himself. He stands at the edge again. Everything he has built in this second life, the guardian, the conscience, the proof that the fall can be reversed, all of it hangs once more over the same pit that swallowed him before. The Order is bleeding, the younglings are dying, the Emperor is winning, and the one soul who is the Order's map back from the dark stands at the edge of the dark himself, with everything depending on whether he can do, a second time, and under far greater pressure, the thing he failed to do the first time. This is the hour the whole story was built to reach, and how Anakin Skywalker stands in it will decide not only his own fate, but the fate of the Order, the age, and the future itself. Anakin Skywalker stands at the edge of the abyss for the second time in his existence, and everything is different, and everything is the same seduction, the same voice, not Palpatine's voice this time, but the Emperor's, older and colder, and if anything more powerful, whispering the same eternal lie in 1,000 forms. You are not strong enough to save them. The light is failing. Your friends are dying, and you are powerless to stop it, as you were powerless before, as you will always be powerless, so long as you cling to the weak and failing light. But there is power here. There has always been power here. Enough power to save them all. Enough power to strike down the Emperor himself. Enough power to end this war in an afternoon. All you have to do is what you already know how to do. All you have to do is reach. And the terrible thing, the thing that makes it a real temptation and not a cardboard one, is that it is not entirely a lie. Anakin has felt the power of the dark side. He knows exactly how much stronger it made him, how much faster, how much more capable of protecting the people he loved, in the short term, in the immediate crisis, before the long bill came due. In this hour, with the Order bleeding, and the younglings dying, and the Emperor grinding the rising light back down into the dark side's offer is not obviously wrong. Perhaps he could save them with that power. Perhaps the cost would be worth it. Perhaps this time he could take the power and not be consumed by it, use it and not be used by it, fall just far enough to save everyone and then climb back the way he climbed back before. That is the lie inside the lie. That is the thought that damns. Just this once, just far enough, just to save them. It is the exact thought he had the first time, wearing slightly different clothes, and he recognizes it, and recognizing it is the beginning of his salvation, because Anakin has one thing now that he did not have the first time. He has been to the end of that road. He knows where just this once leads, because he went there, all the way there, and stood in a temple full of murdered children with gold in his eyes. He is not tempted by the dark side's offer the way an innocent is tempted, the way he was tempted the first time, believing it might really be different. He is tempted the way a man is tempted by a poison he has already nearly died from, with full and perfect knowledge of exactly what it does, exactly how it feels going down, exactly how the lie of just this once becomes forever, and that knowledge, purchased at the price of his first fall and his years in the mask, is the thing that lets him stand where he could not stand before. He does not reach. It is the hardest thing he has ever done, harder than the fall itself, because the fall was easy. The fall was a release, a giving in, a letting go of an unbearable weight. This is the opposite. This is the holding. This is standing in the full flood of the dark side's power, with everyone he loves dying around him, and salvation seemingly one small surrender away, and choosing, not once, but continuously, moment after grinding moment, to keep holding the light even though the light is failing, even though the light may not be enough, even though holding it may mean watching the people he loves die when he had the power to save them. This is the choice the Jedi Code always pointed toward, and rarely had to truly test. The choice to serve the light, not because it wins, but because it is the light, and to accept whatever comes of that service, including loss, including death, including the death of everything you love. Anakin chooses the light in the one circumstance where choosing it is hardest, when it is losing, when it is failing, when the dark is winning and offers everything, and the light offers nothing but itself. And in making that choice, in the depths of the darkest hour, he completes the redemption that his second life has been building toward from the beginning. The first time, he fell to save the people he loved, and in the falling, doomed them all. This time, he refuses to fall even to save the people he loves, and accepts that he may lose them, and in the refusing, becomes at last the thing he was always meant to be. Not the chosen one of prophecy, the one who brings balance through power, something quieter and truer, the one who proves that the fall can be refused, the one who stands in the abyss and does not reach. And here is the thing the Emperor did not anticipate, the thing his 10,000 years of cunning could not have prepared him for, because it is outside everything the dark side understands. Anakin's refusal is not merely a personal victory, it is a weapon. Because the Emperor had reached into Anakin specifically to turn him, had opened the connection between them, had extended his own vast dark presence into the fallen and redeemed soul intending to reclaim it. And when Anakin refuses, when he chooses the light in the teeth of everything, that choice travels back down the connection into the Emperor himself. The master of the ancient Sith, who has never in his endless existence encountered a soul that would refuse ultimate power to serve a losing light, who does not have the concept, who cannot comprehend it, recoils from it as from a thing that should not exist. For the first time in an age, the Emperor encounters something he does not understand, and the encounter shakes him, and in the shaking, a crack appears in the abyss that has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. It is not a victory, not yet. The Emperor is not defeated by a single soul's refusal, however profound, but he is, for the first time, off balance. He has met the one thing his understanding cannot encompass, a redeemed monster who will not fall again, who chooses the failing light over the triumphant dark, who has taken the dark side's oldest and surest weapon, the promise of power to save what you love, and simply refused it. And the whole edifice of the Emperor's power, built on the certainty that every being can be understood and therefore turned or broken, trembles at the existence of a being he cannot understand. Anakin steps back from the edge of the abyss, himself whole, the light unbroken in him, and he turns to face the Emperor not as a fallen thing reaching for power, but as what he has finally become, the proof, standing and unbroken in the darkest hour, that the light cannot be extinguished by any darkness, because it does not depend on winning. It only depends on the choice to keep holding it, and that choice, the Emperor is about to learn, is the one thing in all the galaxy that even the Master of the Sith cannot take away. The final confrontation with the Emperor is not a duel. It is something larger and stranger than a duel, because the Emperor is not the kind of enemy who can be defeated by a blade, however well wielded. He is an abyss, an age of accumulated darkness given will and shape, and to face him is to face the concentrated dark side of an entire epoch. No single Jedi, not Yoda, not Anakin, not the greatest blade in the Order, could stand against him alone. The lesser Sith could be dueled. The Emperor must be something else, must be endured and outlasted, and answered not with one soul's power, but with something the dark side has no answer for. And so, the Order faces him together, in the end, and the way they face him is the culmination of everything the age has taught them. They do not face him as an army of blades, though blades are drawn. They face him as a unity of the light, thousands of Jedi, joined in the Force as they have learned to join across the long years of the war, holding the light together against the abyss. This is the thing the corrupted, comfortable Order of the future could never have done, the thing that the hard years in the deep dark forged them into being able to do, to stand together, wholly, holding nothing back, each Jedi's light reinforcing every other's, a single vast flame of the light side answering the single vast abyss of the dark. Where the Emperor is the concentrated darkness of an age, they make themselves the concentrated light of one, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the abyss meets its equal. The confrontation is beyond anything the ancient galaxy has witnessed. The Emperor brings against the joined Order every weapon of the dark side accumulated across his endless reign, terror and despair, and the seductive whisper of surrender, the raw annihilating power of the abyss, the cunning of 10,000 years. He seeks the weak point in their unity, the one frightened soul, the one grieving heart, the one crack through which the whole edifice might be shattered, and again he finds a soul beginning to waver, and again the unity holds it, the others pouring their strength into the wavering one, catching them before they fall, the warmth and closeness that Anakin taught the Order becoming, in this final hour, the very thing that lets them stand where the old cold Order would have shattered, but it costs them. Oh, it costs them. Holding the light against the Emperor is not free, and the Order pays in the only currency it has left, which is itself. Jedi die in the joining, their strength given wholly to the unity, until there is nothing left to give. Others fall to the Emperor's assault despite everything, souls lost to the abyss in the very act of resisting it. The ranks thin further and further as the confrontation grinds on, and it becomes clear, with terrible slowness, that the Order cannot both defeat the Emperor and survive, that the light of this age can be saved, but only at a price, and the price is them, and they pay it. That is the heart of the ending, the thing the whole story was built to earn, having accepted, in Yoda's great teaching, that their own existence was never the point, having let go of the need to survive, to preserve their timeline, to see the future they fought for. The Order is free to do the one thing that can defeat an enemy like the Emperor. It can spend itself completely, it can give everything, hold nothing back, pour the entire remaining strength of 10,000 years of Jedi tradition into a single final act of light, and accept that the act will consume them. Yoda leads it, because of course he does. The oldest and wisest, the one who has carried them the furthest, spends himself first, and most completely, his 900 years of communion with the Force, given wholly to the joined light of the Order. Obi-Wan is there, steady to the last, the heart of the Order beating until it beats no more. And Anakin, the fallen and redeemed, the proof that the light cannot be extinguished. Anakin is the point of the spear, the one soul the Emperor cannot understand, driven like a blade of pure refused darkness into the heart of the abyss. The redeemed monster, wielded by the united light against the master of the dark. The abyss cannot answer it. That is the thing that finally breaks the Emperor. Not power, for he has more power than all of them, but the nature of what they have become. He is the concentrated selfishness of an age, 10,000 years of beings clawing over one another for power and survival, refined into a single vast will to endure. And they are the concentrated selflessness of an age, 10,000 souls who have surrendered their own survival entirely, giving everything for a light they will not live to see triumph. The dark side has no defense against that, because the dark side is built entirely on the will to survive, to endure, to preserve the self at any cost, and it cannot comprehend, cannot counter, cannot even truly perceive an enemy that has let go of all of that. The Emperor has ruled for an age by understanding the hunger in every soul, and he dies at the last, undone by an order that had no hunger left for him to grasp. The abyss closes. The Emperor, ancient beyond reckoning, powerful beyond comprehension, the master of the dark side of an entire epoch, is undone, consumed in the light he could not understand, and the darkness that has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years gutters, for the first time, toward the possibility of an end. But the cost is everything the story warned it would be. When the light fades, and the abyss is gone, and the survivors of the Order look around them, they find that they are few, so few. The 10,000 who came back from Order 66 are a remnant now, a scattered handful, and the greatest among them are gone, spent utterly in the final light, given wholly to the victory they bought and will not fully see. The order that the Force pulled from the fire of its own extinction has been consumed a second time, in a second fire, on the far side of 10,000 years. It saved the light of this age, and it paid for that salvation with nearly the last of itself. In the quiet after the Emperor's fall, the survivors of the Order face a question stranger than any battle. What now? The great enemy is gone, but the Sith Empire is not entirely, not at once. An empire of tens of thousands of Darksiders does not vanish because its master dies. It fractures, it convulses, it collapses inward as the lesser lords turn on one another for the vacant throne. But the thing that held it together, the ancient will at its summit that made it more than a squabbling nest of tyrants, is gone. And into the vacuum rushes the thing the Order kindled, the rising galaxy, the story of hope, the peoples who have remembered how to resist. The empire that took 10,000 years to build begins. In the wake of the Emperor's fall, the long, slow process of coming apart. It will not finish for generations, but it has begun, and it will not stop. And the survivors of the Order understand that they have done the thing they were sent to do. They have not destroyed the darkness. No one can destroy the darkness. It is eternal. It is half of everything, but they have broken its dominion. They have turned the tide of an age, and they have perhaps made their own future possible, because this fall of the ancient empire, this rising of the light, this turning of the long tide, this is the deep root of the galaxy the Order came from, the republic that will rise over the coming millennia, the long ascendancy of the Jedi, the balanced galaxy in which the Sith are reduced to two hiding in the shadows. All of it begins here, in the ruin of the ancient empire, in the fire the Order kindled. They came from that future, and they made it. The loop closes, strange and perfect. The Order of the future reached back across 10,000 years to create the conditions of its own existence, spending itself to plant the seed of the very galaxy that would one day give it birth. But the survivors will not see that galaxy. That is the bittersweet heart of the aftermath. They have secured a future they cannot return to. The Force sent them here for a purpose, and the purpose is fulfilled, and there is no indication, none, that the Force intends to send them home. Why would it? Home does not exist yet. It will not exist for 10,000 years. The survivors are stranded permanently in the deep past, in the ruins of the age they saved, with no way back to the time and the Order and the lives they knew. They grieve this, and then, slowly, they make peace with it, because they are Jedi, and because Yoda's great teaching has prepared them for exactly this. Their own return was never the point. Their own lives, their own timeline, their own future. These were things to be given, not clung to, and they have given them. What remains is not the life they wanted, but the life they have, here, in this ancient age, among the peoples they freed and the light they rekindled. And there is, they discover, a purpose in that too. Because the galaxy still needs Jedi. The Empire is falling, but its fall will be long and violent, and the rising light needs guardians, teachers, protectors. In the hard centuries to come, the ancient Jedi Order, The few hundred that the 10,000 allied with, so long ago now, has been transformed by its contact with the survivors from the future, strengthened and expanded and taught. And the survivors of the future order, few as they are, become something precious to this age, living wisdom, carriers of 10,000 years of Jedi tradition that has not been developed yet, teachers who can pass to the young order of the past the hard-won lessons of a future that may now never come to pass in the same way. They plant themselves in the ancient soil, the last remnant of a future order, and they become the deep root of the tradition that will grow over the millennia into the Jedi Order they remember. Everything they learned, Anakin's hard wisdom about the fall and the road back, the Order's painful discovery that its wounded must be held close rather than kept at arm's length, Yoda's final teaching about the surrender of the self to the light, all of it enters the tradition here, at the deep root, and flows forward through 10,000 years. In a strange sense, the survivors do not merely make their own future possible, they improve it. The lessons that the comfortable Order of the future forgot, the wisdom that might have prevented Order 66 if the Order had only remembered it, is planted here, at the beginning, in the hope that it will endure where it was lost before. Whether it endures is a question the survivors cannot answer, and it is the question the whole story finally rests on. Perhaps their wisdom takes root, and the order that grows from it is stronger, wiser, less prone to the cold detachment that damned it. And perhaps, 10,000 years hence, when a Sith named Palpatine begins to spin his web, the order that faces him is the kind of order that can recognize the darkness in its own ranks before it is too late, and Order 66 never comes to pass at all. Or perhaps the wisdom is lost again, worn away by the long, comfortable centuries, and the loop closes exactly as it began, and everything happens again as it happened before, and the order they came from is reborn identical, flaws and all, doomed to the same fall. The survivors will never know. They have planted the seed. What grows from it across 10,000 years is beyond their sight, a matter of faith, a gift given to a future they served and cannot see, and that, in the end, is the most Jedi thing of all, to give everything for a good you will never witness, to plant a tree in whose shade you will never sit, to serve the light not for reward, not for victory, not even for the survival of everything you love, but simply because the light is worth serving, and to trust the Force with the rest. Of all the survivors, it is Anakin Skywalker whose ending means the most, because Anakin's journey was the deepest, and Anakin's redemption was the thing the whole story turned on. He came back from Order 66 as the worst of them, the fallen one, the traitor, Vader wearing a familiar face, the one soul in the Order who had committed the unforgivable. He carried that through everything, the suspicion, the fracture, the knowledge that some of his brothers and sisters could never look at him without seeing the temple and the children. He never asked them to forget it, he never pretended it away, and he never, in all the long years of the war, allowed himself the comfort of believing his redemption was complete, because he knew, better than anyone, that the fall is not a thing you recover from once and are done with. It is a pull you resist every day for the rest of your life. But by the end, Anakin has become something the galaxy has never seen and may never see again. Not the chosen one of the prophecy, that title belonged to a different life, a different future, and it brought balance through destruction and death. This Anakin brought something quieter and more durable. He became the living proof that the darkest fall can be reversed, that a soul which has done the unforgivable can climb back into the light and become, not despite its fall, but because of it, a guardian against the fall of others. Every Jedi he pulled back from the edge, every wounded heart he held close, every soul he taught how not to fall by showing them, without shame, the map of his own falling, all of it was redemption, not as a single moment of absolution, but as a life's work, a thing built day by day out of the wreckage of the worst thing he ever did. And in the final confrontation, he was the point of the spear, the one soul the Emperor could not understand, the redeemed monster who refused the dark side's ultimate offer, and drove that refusal, like a blade, into the heart of the abyss. The Emperor sought to use Anakin's fall as proof that redemption is a lie, that the dark owns forever what it once has held, and Anakin answered that lie with his whole existence, and the answer helped bring down the master of the ancient Sith. The most monstrous thing he ever did became, in the strange accounting of the Force, the very thing that made him the weapon the light needed. He was right to wonder, in the quiet weeks of the beginning, whether the Force sent the order back because of him, and not in spite of him. It did. His fall was the Order's map. His redemption was the Order's proof. And his refusal in the darkest hour was the Order's blade. If Anakin survives the final confrontation, and whether he does is a choice the story can make either way, and both ways are true to it, then his ending is a quiet one. He does not return to any throne or any glory. He becomes a teacher in the ancient age, one of the deep roots of the tradition to come, passing to the young Jedi of the past the one lesson he understands better than any being who has ever lived: how the fall happens, and how to resist it, and how to come back if you cannot. Perhaps he lives out his years in the deep past, watched over by an Obi-Wan who finally, fully has his brother back. Not the golden hero of the prophecy, but the truer, harder, humbler thing Anakin became. Perhaps the last image is the two of them, old now, in the ancient galaxy they saved, having found on the far side of 10,000 years and one shared redemption, the peace that Mustafar denied them. Or perhaps Anakin does not survive. Perhaps the point of the spear is spent in the driving, and Anakin gives the last of himself in the final light, completing his redemption in the most total way a soul can, laying down his life not to save the people he loved through the dark, as he tried and failed to do the first time, but giving it freely to the light, holding nothing back, the fallen one made whole at last in the act of final sacrifice. Perhaps the last image is Obi-Wan, alone among the survivors, grieving a brother twice lost, but this time lost to the light, lost as a hero, lost as the thing he always had it in him to be. And perhaps that grief is a kind of peace too, because this time Anakin did not fall. This time he rose, all the way, and the rising cost him everything, and everything was the right price, and he paid it as himself. Either ending is true, because the story was never really about whether Anakin lived. It was about whether he could be redeemed, truly redeemed, not by a deathbed turn in the last moment of a wasted life, but by a whole existence rebuilt out of the ruin of his fall, and he was. That is the thing the story affirms. Whichever way it ends, the fall can be reversed, the monster can climb back. The worst thing you ever did does not have to be the last word on who you are. Anakin Skywalker fell further than any Jedi in 10,000 years, and he climbed all the way back, and he became the proof. For the Order, for the age, for the galaxy, for anyone who ever believed themselves too far gone to return, that the light is never wholly lost in anyone, ever, so long as there remains the will to choose it. And so, we come to the end of it, and to what it all means. What if the entire Jedi Order was sent back to the Old Republic? We imagined it as a horror, and it was an order that thought it had faced the worst the dark could offer, hurled into an age that showed it the dark had always been vaster and deeper and more patient than it ever knew. But the horror was never the point. The horror was the crucible, because an order that had grown comfortable, that had forgotten what it was for, that had come to fight for its own survival and its own institution, and had been destroyed from within because of it, that order was broken down in the fire of the ancient age and remade into something truer. It rediscovered that it was never supposed to be about winning or surviving or even existing. It was always supposed to be about the light. And in an age of overwhelming darkness, stripped of every comfort and every certainty, facing the possible erasure of its own existence, the Order finally became what it was always meant to be, a people who would give everything, including themselves, including the very fact of their having been, for a light they would never live to see triumph. That is the deep truth the story leaves us with, that the light does not depend on winning, that the darkness, however vast, however ancient, however certain of its own eternity, cannot understand and cannot defeat a soul that has surrendered its own survival to something greater than itself, and that even the deepest fall, even the most unforgivable failure, even a monster in a black mask, can climb back into the light and become the very proof that the light endures. Star Wars is a galaxy of infinite stories and infinite what-ifs, and this was one of the darkest, and I think, one of the most hopeful. A story about an order that lost everything, twice, and found in the losing the thing it had forgotten it was for. If you journeyed all the way to the end of this one with me, thank you for spending the time in the galaxy that might have been. If it moved you, consider liking the video, sharing it with someone who'd appreciate a long walk through the deep past, and subscribing so you're here for the next one. Until then, may the Force be with you, always.